Today I effed up by trying to bang a goth baddie, and my wife found out. My 31M, wife 32F, and I are in a healthy and happy relationship. That said, we've been together since high school, so we both feel that we missed out a little by being each other's only sexual experiences. We've talked about this at length and decided a few years ago that we're okay with having a few hall passes in our relationship, since we very much intend to stay together the rest of our lives and don't want any resentment over missed possibilities. Plus, it's pretty rare that we could even find such an opportunity, as it's a little hard to find hookups when you're in a committed marriage and don't go out much. We even gave each other advanced approval in case a situation arises, so as long as we're safe about it and tell each other immediately afterward. We've both used 1 HP, each with someone we knew well enough but would never see again, and no issues came out of it. In fact, it's only made us more secure in our relationship and how much we genuinely appreciate being with each other. Recently, I had to travel to London for work. I don't normally get to travel for work, so I decided to make a trip out of it and spend a few extra days of my own time in the city after the project was done. My wife couldn't join because she didn't have any vacation time left, but was very supportive of me taking some time to explore since I've never been to London and she has. Being cheap and being a pretty outgoing guy when I'm so inclined, I decided to stay in a hostel. I was interested in meeting other travelers since I didn't know anyone in the city and loved being sociable with new people. I chatted with several of the people staying there, and in particular, a very attractive French girl, mid-20s, who dressed super goth. For context, I love the goth girl look. I've been sucked into the goth GF propaganda online, much to the annoyance of my wife. It isn't her style, but she's been nice enough to cater to me by putting on a sexy goth outfit on occasion, since she knows it's a huge fantasy of mine. Still, I pester her constantly to be more goth because I enjoy it so much. Anyway, I ended up spending a little bit of time with goth French baddie. We both went to the hostel's happy hour event and hit it off there. I found out that she was recently single and was in London for an art show. It turned out we were both into emo music and we talked about our favorite bands. I had thought she was acting a bit flirty towards me, but didn't think too much of it, until I later found myself sharing a sink with her in the hostel bathroom. The hostel was co-ed, so each floor had a small shared bathroom with a communal sink, and a door that was meant to be kept open, but which people frequently closed for the sake of having more privacy than just a stall to shower in. So I'm brushing my teeth while chatting up the real-life version of Shadowheart, who, mind you, is wearing an extremely low-cut top, when she suddenly closes the bathroom door behind us. In my mind, my wildest fantasy is about to come true. It's even more exciting because of the adrenaline rush of being in a semi-public setting, and a girl being so into me that she would make such a bold move. I can't believe this is actually happening to me. I instantly get hard. Then she turns around and asks, "Are you interested in learning about our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ?" She had me cornered for 10 minutes, trying to talk me into salvation, while I grew increasingly despondent and immensely disappointed, with the whiplash of going from what could have been one of the crowning moments of my life to pure and utter dejection. When I told my wife this story, she laughed for a solid hour. She said it's karma for annoying her about wanting a goth GF. Listen, this whole story and the entire concept of hall passes, I never fully understand how committed couples are okay with that. But for this goth fetish/fantasy to come full circle on him so quickly in a negative way, I think that that's pretty poetic justice that maybe you shouldn't be doing this. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for quitting a game after my husband interrupted me? So, long story short, my husband has been trying to convince me to play Ghost of Tsushima for a while, pretty much since it came out, and I finally agreed to play it. However, while playing the game tonight, he interrupted me during a standoff and I missed a game guide tip that came on screen. To be clear, I was in the middle of a standoff while he was watching me play, and as I'm fighting, he asked me a question, not related to the game, and I got distracted answering him while trying not to die at the same time. I'm not great at processing multiple sources of sensory input at the same time, which is why I don't normally play games like this, since they require the player to keep track of lots of different moving pieces simultaneously. That's very stressful for me, and I typically game to reduce stress, so I just don't gravitate towards games that I find difficult to play. Well, while I was fighting the enemy and trying to answer my husband's question at the same time, I missed a tutorial tip that came on screen and wasn't able to read it before it vanished. I honestly didn't even know I missed it at first, until my husband asked me if I had seen what it said. I told him no and asked him what it was I missed, but he refused to tell me. I got a little frustrated, but it's not the first time I've gotten distracted from something right in front of my face while trying to process other sensory input. So I asked him if it was something important I needed to know to play the game, to which he said yes. So then I explained to him that I had missed that the tip even came on screen because I was talking to him, and asked again what the guide said. He smirked and said no again with his smug, teasing expression. Are you really not going to tell me even though I missed it because I was talking to you? Can you at least tell me what it was about so I can try to Google it? I asked. Nope, he answered. So I closed the game, put the controller down, and left to watch TV in our room. Now he's texting me that I'm overreacting by quitting and telling me to just play the game and I'll eventually figure it out. Thing is, what little interest I had in playing the game is completely gone now. I didn't really want to play it in the first place, but I knew my husband wanted me to, and at least the gameplay was beautiful and the story sounded interesting. But again, I play games to relieve stress, so now that I've missed important information I need to play the game, and I don't even know how to find what I missed, I'm just over it. I don't think I can go back since the game autosaves and doesn't keep a backup, and even though I'm not super far in, I still don't want to start over and redo everything from square one. So am I the a-hole for quitting the game? Update. A few things I want to clarify real quick. 1. I actually think Ghost of Tsushima is a great game. It's visually stunning and the story, as far as I know it, is fairly compelling. But I'm autistic, and from a gameplay perspective, I find the combat system overstimulating and stressful, so I never really wanted to play through it myself. My husband knows these things, and I previously indulged his love of the game by watching his playthrough whenever we were both free and he was gaming. 2. It's very unlikely that I would have ever surpassed my husband in this game, even if I had played through. I play games like this on easy mode and usually only clear the story and maybe some bronze achievements. My husband typically plays on hard or legendary modes when he games, and can be a bit of a completionist about the achievements depending on how much he enjoys a game. So after my initial post, I got over our disagreement fairly quickly. I went to our room and watched TV, and he gave me my space and stayed in the living room playing other games. By the time he came to bed a few hours later, I wasn't even mad because I felt like I got the validation I needed here to not doubt my response, and he hadn't been hassling me anymore since that first text. We wound up getting intimate because, frankly, we both had itches we needed to scratch. However, afterwards, when we were lying next to each other, my husband began to mumble some nonsense things. At first, I couldn't really understand what he was saying because he wasn't speaking clearly, so I told him, "Hey, sorry, I didn't hear you. What did you say?" Again, he mumbled something nonsensical, but I couldn't hear him very well, so I nudged him on the shoulder, just in case he was talking in his sleep. "Babe, what'd you say? I missed it." He continued to speak nonsense, except now he was speaking more clearly as if fully awake. I don't remember his exact words, but some things he said sounded like something you might imagine while drifting off, like, "because of the clapping seals," while other things he said made zero sense whatsoever. For example, "purple windmill popcorn today." Both my husband and I have a history of some serious medical conditions. He's generally been healthy as long as we've been together, but over a decade ago, just before we got together, he had developed a very severe medical condition that resulted in seizures and brain swelling, causing him to be hospitalized and nearly taking his life. It had a heavy impact on him psychologically, and it was one of the first deeply personal things he ever told me about himself when we initially got serious. I'm an anxious person, and knowing his medical history, I assumed the worst. So I asked him, "Honey, are you alright? You sound like you're having a stroke or something." He stopped answering and started breathing in shallow, shaky breaths. "Babe, you're freaking me out a little bit here. I need you to talk to me. If you're messing with me, you need to stop." Still no answer, just more shallow, shaky breaths in the dark. "This isn't funny. I'm scared. I swear to God, if you're messing with me, I need you to stop right now. I swear to God, I will call an ambulance." More shallow, shaky breaths. So I threw myself out of bed and scrambled to turn on my bedside lamp. I turned to look over at him in the light and see if he was okay, and he was laying there, smirking at me again. I was livid. "That's not funny," I snapped at him. "I was scared. I thought something bad was happening to you. That's twice now this evening. You've taken a joke too effing far." We sat there looking at each other. I'm sure my expression was pissed, but I was waiting for him to apologize. To say, "Sorry, you're right, that was effed up." If he just said something like that, I could have easily moved on. Instead, he stared at me blankly, completely silent. No apology, no reassurance, nothing. For me, whatever mood there had been was completely ruined. I got up and went to take a shower. By the time I got back, he had already fallen asleep. As of this morning, he still hasn't apologized for either incident last night. Honestly, up until his second joke, I was fully ready to defend him in the comments and in my own mind. All in all, nothing that had happened was all that serious, and a part of me felt somewhat amused at how many people in the comments seemed to jump to the worst conclusions about our relationship. After all, most of the time, we're happy. We rarely fight or argue, and we're both typically quick to say what we mean or feel and move on. But I'm still very upset. I spent a lot of time in our shower last night asking myself why he would think a joke like that is appropriate, and why he would continue to play it having a medical episode even after it should have been obvious how scared and concerned I was for him. And the only thing I can think of is that in some way or another, he enjoys my frustration. He thinks my fear is funny. I don't know what to do with those thoughts. He's at work right now, and I'm off today, so I'm just home alone, spiraling and overanalyzing our past to see if I missed other red flags and trying to figure out at what point he started finding joy in my discomfort. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just sad. Update 2. I just want to start by saying I appreciate everyone who took the time to read and reply to my post and these updates with thoughtful answers. Truthfully, I struggle with my self-confidence and find it difficult to validate my own emotions because I grew up in a highly dysfunctional household where I had to always be the one on damage control and be a grade A people pleaser in order to survive. It's something I've been working on for years, but the simple truth is, the more significant a person is in my life, the harder I find it to advocate for myself or validate my own feelings when we disagree. My husband is the most significant person in my life, so even though the initial disagreement wasn't particularly serious, it ate at me just to stand my ground on leaving the game. As for those of you fanboying so hard over Ghost of Tsushima that you seem to take personal offense in my disinterest in playing and subsequently decided I'm TA off of that information alone, please, go touch some grass. I never said anything negative about the game. I just don't want to play it because I have disabilities that make it less accessible and subsequently less enjoyable for me. Also, what little interest and momentum I had built by playing it so far was ruined when my husband went out of his way to make the game even more difficult for me. It's not life or death, it's a video game, so I shouldn't have to force myself to play if I'm not having fun. Now for the update. When my husband got home from work today, he initially tried to act as if nothing happened. I let him tell me about his day and listened cordially, but didn't otherwise engage with him. I'm usually very happy to have him home, so it didn't take long for him to ask if I was still upset about last night. I had been dreading this conversation all day, even though I knew it needed to happen, so I kind of surprised myself with how quickly I answered. Yes, I'm still mad. At first, he didn't say anything, just smiled somewhat apologetically. This frustrated me enough to keep me going. Just to be clear, I want you to understand I'm not even mad about the game anymore. Yeah, that was petty and annoying, and I don't know where you got off thinking you had any right to be mad at me for quitting when you went out of your way to make the game even less accessible to me, but I was only playing the game for you to begin with, so it's whatever. I was already over that by the time you came to bed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been intimate, regardless of how much we both wanted it. But what you did afterwards was out of line. Pretending to have a medical episode? That's not a effing joke. I'm mad because I was genuinely worried for you. I love you so much and I was terrified, and you thought that was funny. You made a joke out of how important you are to me, and that's hurtful. You can't joke about something like that with me. I didn't expect myself to be able to say that much, and I probably didn't get it perfectly word for word here, but I had been thinking about how I felt all day, so in a way, I already knew everything I wanted to say. We both stood there quietly for a moment, and he seemed to be considering what I was saying. We don't usually fight, so we don't usually have talks like this, but it needed to happen. Finally, he spoke up. Okay, so I know I owe you an apology, but what else can I do to help make it right? I told him, I just want a sincere apology and a promise that going forward, you will never try to scare me like that again. Thankfully, that was all it took. He told me he was sorry and that he never should have made a joke out of having a sudden medical crisis. He agreed it wasn't funny and promised never to pull anything like that ever again. He also said he was sorry for being a dick over the game and would accept it if I didn't want to play anymore. I told him I really didn't. It's a lovely game, but it's just too overstimulating for me, and I'd really rather we just watch a cinematic Let's Play together, if he really wants to share it with me and get the observer experience at the same time. So I guess that's what we'll do. In the meantime, I've been reading Why Does He Do That from several commenters' recommendations. I plan to discuss it with my therapist during our next session regarding any feelings it brings up, and in turn, I hope to develop some healthy strategies for addressing conflicts in the future. I do agree that my husband's recent behavior is very problematic, but being that he's typically not nearly so dickish as he's been recently, I'm willing to take him at his word for now. He's by no means in the clear, but future behavior will determine how much more of myself I invest into our relationship. I've dealt with enough crap in my life. I'll be damned if I'm going to the grave miserable. Now, we do have one relevant comment here, and OP added this detailed comment about why she didn't just Google for help, quit playing if she didn't enjoy it, communication with her husband, and adds insight into her life and disability. So the tricky thing about Googling what I missed was that I had already passed the primary tutorial. I had reached a point where I was out in the open world, but still early game and just beginning to get access to things like sticky bombs and water stance. I already knew about how to initiate standoffs and to hold triangle first, then transition into a second attack with square. But during the standoff where I missed the guide, I survived the encounter and completely missed the guide in any context as to what was said. That was why I asked my husband after his initial refusal if he would at least tell me the context of the tip I missed so I could Google accordingly, but he also refused to tell me that. As you can imagine, trying to search for an unknown skill in a game that has so many different fighting mechanics without any context as to what I'm looking for would have taken me a while, if I was even able to find it. And if I found it, I'm not sure I would know since I didn't know the context of the guide I missed. It takes me a lot of focus to really get into a game like this, so even though I was enjoying what I had experienced so far, it just didn't appeal to me to drop all the momentum I had built so far and find a needle in a haystack, all in the effort to keep playing a game that I would have much preferred to watch a Let's Play of instead. As for my safety, it's as you might guess. My disability does absolutely affect my ability to function fully and safely out in the world. I have a service dog that's task trained to help me with navigating life independently, but I don't really spend much time outside of my house other than going to work or other familiar places like the grocery store and the park near my house. To give you an idea of what it's like, I struggle to have conversations in public or anywhere with significant background noise because my brain perceives all the sounds as the same volume. The car driving down the street at the other end of the parking lot is just as loud as the person right next to me, speaking into my ear. I don't really have reliable fine motor skills, and my balance is negligible. One minute I'm holding something in my hands nice and secure, then it falls straight through my fingers as if they're made of water. Plus, I'm terrible at judging distances and have a shifting equilibrium, so once I drop something, unless I have my service dog to retrieve it, I usually have to grab for it 3 or 4 times before I'm successful in getting it, and during that process, I may very well lose my balance and fall over or into a wall. Strong smells, especially multiple strong smells together, make me nauseous, and if someone stands too close after eating, I can probably make a strong guess at what they ate. Bright and flickering lights give me migraines and sometimes trigger mild absence seizures, but I also have terrible low light vision and struggle to navigate my own bedroom in the dark, regardless of living in the same house for nearly 10 years with the same furniture setup. Everything I do outside of the well-managed comfort of my own home takes extra effort, and if I'm not careful or I overload myself with too much work, I can easily be bedridden or hospitalized for a few days. As such, for whatever small amount of independence I can maintain, most simple daily tasks are still difficult for me, and it's hard to imagine how I would make do without the extra assistance provided by both my service dog and my husband. I've been this way my whole life, so in some ways I'm used to it, and I've several tried and true methods for dealing with my deficits. But some things, particularly the dyspraxia, have definitely gotten worse with age. Frankly, I should probably be on disability, but since my disability is invisible, I would probably need a disability lawyer, and we don't make enough money to be able to afford to do all that. So I make do however I can, and will continue to do so as long as I can. So, husband, absolutely a D-bag for A, being petty about Ghost of Tsushima and thinking that that's funny, but obviously the far greater infraction was faking the medical episode when he has a legitimate medical condition, and even after he crossed the line and she let him know, to continue, right? And then to not only continue, but then to laugh about it afterwards and take until the next day peer pressure to finally apologize. So he apologized, and that's great. That's obviously the first step. But as OOP said, he should not be out of the woods yet. and only his actions going forward are going to dictate how to proceed with their relationship, or I guess they're married, so their marriage. But no, he's absolutely a jerk face for doing that. OP, not an a-hole for quitting the video game, and certainly not an a-hole for continuing to be mad after he didn't apologize about, the medical episode. Story 3. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend that I will wear a headscarf when he grows his foreskin back? My F24 boyfriend M28 is a Muslim. He usually is not very traditional. We don't live in a Muslim country. The other day he told me that as soon as we get engaged, I'll need to wear a headscarf to cover my hair. I'm very proud of my long wavy hair, and a headscarf is absolutely out of the question, and he knows that. When we first met, he even told me that he doesn't like that tradition and that his girlfriend will never have to wear one. Now, yesterday, we had a real fight about it. His parents want us to get engaged, and engagement means the future bride has to cover her hair. It got heated, and I ended with, "I will wear the damn thing as soon as you grow your foreskin back." He left without saying a word and went to his parents' place. Silence since then. Am I the a-hole? Edit. 1. I will not wear a headscarf. If that means that the engagement isn't going to happen, then it will not happen. 2. I got downvoted for stating that I love him. Please keep in mind that the fight is less than 24 hours ago and I miss him. We had a very good relationship for 5 years and never fought before. We're planning on moving in together after getting engaged. 3. I will not convert to his religion. He knows that, and his mother seemed fine with it. His father never said anything about it. I'm Christian and will stay Christian. 4. People assume that his family is behind the headscarf idea. I'm not sure about it, but it might be possible. If they are, they were good at hiding it, since they never said anything. 5. His family immigrated 3 generations ago into the mostly Christian country we live in. He himself never visited the country, Libya, his great-grandparents on his father's side came from. The family on his mother's side, I don't know. And then here's some additional information from OP after responding to multiple comments on how she knew her boyfriend. OP says, "We met at the animal shelter 2 years ago. He came from a 12-hour shift at his job and volunteered to bottle feed the kittens overnight. I was cleaning the cat area at that time. This was how we met. We were friends at first. After about 5 months, we started dating. I knew he was Muslim and didn't want to date him because of all the stereotypes, but he assured me that his girlfriend will never have to be traditional or modest or wear a headscarf. Even eating pork was no problem. We went to the beach together. I was wearing a bikini. No issues. I didn't care about his religion, since he didn't seem to care. I fell in love with him as a person, not him as a Muslim. AITAH has no consensus bot, but OP was NTA. Now let's read some relevant comments. If OP really loves her boyfriend, she should obey his rules on wearing a headscarf. OP replies, I don't want to be dictated how to wear or cover my hair, but I also don't want to break a relationship that worked just fine until recently. I want everything to go back to the way it was before he came up with the engagement rule. Do the women in the boyfriend's family wear headscarves? OP says, his mother wears one and his aunt does. He has 3 brothers, no sisters. I haven't met his grandmother yet, but I'm pretty sure she wears one too. His family knows that I'm not Muslim. Blonde hair, green eyes, and fair skin. A Christian name and my wardrobe have made that very obvious. I get along good with his mother and brothers. The father is a very quiet man, but he grew up in my country. So did the mother. This family came from Libya 3 generations ago. This is OP's thoughts on getting engaged to her boyfriend. OP says, after 5 years, he brought up engagement. Also, because we wanted to move in together and wanted to be on the rental agreement together, there was no pressure or anything. It actually took a month after our talk about engagement that he came up with the headscarf. Before that, he was fine with me dressing in summer dresses, skirts, jeans. We even went to the beach together where I was wearing a bikini, and that was all just fine. Another commenter says, girl, as a Muslim, you're NTA. It was way clear before, and if you're not willingly going to wear a headscarf, it's not his right to force you either. Tell him this again, and tell him whatever you feel. If he can't respect your choices, leave him. Honestly, IDK if I'd be bashed for being a Muslim woman, but still, if your boundaries and wants are not being respected, leave the guy and find someone who will. To this, OP replies, thank you very much. I don't want to wear a scarf. That's not me, and I would feel like hiding under it. It hurts to realize that he really wants to sacrifice a 5-year relationship for a piece of fabric, that he says he doesn't like it himself. I don't know where it all of a sudden came from. His family seemed to be fine with me being Christian and not behaving traditional Muslim, but suddenly everything changed, just because of hair. hair. It's just so crazy when you think about it. Update 1. Alright, this is all complicated. I called my boyfriend this morning. He didn't answer. His mother did. I told her that I would like him to come get his stuff from my place, since this relationship will not work out any longer. She told me that he came home yesterday, all quiet and sad. After his father asked him what happened, he told them what I said. Apparently, this caused his father to giggle before he told his son that my reaction has been obvious all along and that he isn't surprised at all. Turns out, the parents aren't the religious influence, it's the uncle on the father's side. Apparently, he told my boyfriend that the guests at the engagement party, it's a big deal with his culture, with about 100 people, they come from everywhere and probably bring their whole household, the dog and the neighbors, will probably have a heart attack when they see a pale blonde fiancé without a headscarf. My boyfriend must have had a very deep conversation with his uncle about tradition and being the oldest son and all that stuff. Basically brainwashing. Long story short, he's my ex-boyfriend now. His mother will come by tonight to get his stuff. Now let's read some more relevant comments here. This is OP on her ex's family's thoughts about the whole situation. OP says, his mother said nothing about the situation between the father and the uncle, but the father is a very quiet man. He was always polite to me, but never said anything about tradition or the way I dress or my hair. I guess since I'm not the one that ended the relationship, they don't see any reason to defend anything. Their son is 28. They suggested that we get engaged in an apartment together, so he moves out of their house. My apartment is too small for 2 people, and we were planning on moving in together when we were engaged. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't easy to break up. I cried a lot yesterday while reading all those comments. But I think it's the best thing for now. He isn't the person I fell in love with anymore, and I really don't want to wear the damn scarf. Then OOP explains more about her boyfriend's culture and how much he actually follows the traditions. OP says, he always assured me that a headscarf will not be forced on me. Engagement in his culture isn't the romantic drop to the knee it is in Western culture. It's basically a big party with hundreds of people that bring gifts and eat and gossip, and most of them never met the couple before and will probably not meet them again. We planned on moving in together after the engagement party, since it would be awkward to live in separate places when engaged. Also, we both wanted to be on the rental agreement for a shared apartment. Then this is OP on the plan she had with her boyfriend about their future together. OP replies, we were planning on moving in together when we were engaged. My current place is too small for 2 people, and he's living in his parents' house. We wanted to get an apartment together and both be on the rental agreement. He works for a public transportation company as a bookkeeper, and I work at a car rental company. The plan was to get engaged, move in together, get married, and then have a child within the next 5 years. We wanted to take 1 year off work each for raising the child. First 1 year me, then 1 year him. Our social system pays each parent 1 year parent time. Now update 2. First of all, I'm shocked how much response my post got. I would have never thought that people would care so much. I was expecting like 20 answers, but never would I have thought that this will blow up like that. You guys are fantastic. You've been like therapy, and I really needed that. So many loving and supportive answers. So many people helping me to do the right thing. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. My life has been an emotional roller coaster the last 3 days. The future I had planned is gone, but I guess it was for the best. So here's what happened last night. My ex-boyfriend's mother came over to get his stuff. Some clothes, shoes, socks, books, his toothbrush and deodorant, stuff like that. She brought dinner. It was chicken with bulgur, and this woman is a fantastic cook. And we sat down to talk. She told me some things I didn't know before. It's not the first time my ex messed up big time with a girl he wanted to marry. When he was 22, he was in a serious relationship with a very Western, very independent redhead. Pale skin like me, not a Muslim drop of blood in her. They got along great, but when it came to the question of engagement, my uncle took the boy aside and told him that this wasn't working if the girl wouldn't change her looks and her behavior. The relationship ended and my ex-boyfriend's father got loud. He told his son that he needs to decide what he wanted. If he wanted to live a Western lifestyle, it would be fine. But if he wanted to have a traditional wife, he needs to find someone that is raised that way. Fast forward 4 to 5 years and he started dating me. His father warned him not to mess it up again, and that was the last time he said anything about it. His mother hoped he would be smarter this time. The uncle is a very traditional man. His daughters both wear headscarves since puberty. So does his wife. He prays, he follows the rules, and since he has no son of his own, he kind of decided that my ex-boyfriend, the oldest son in his family, is like a son to him. About my almost mother-in-law, she wears a scarf herself. I asked her why she does, and she was a little embarrassed. She told me that she wasn't always wearing one when she was younger, but she started to get gray hair after her second son was born in her late 20s, and at some point she decided that a scarf is cheaper than the salon, so she covered her head on and off. She got used to it at some point and then didn't go back. Strange, I know, but I haven't been in her situation and it's not my right to judge her. After dinner, we packed my ex's stuff in 2 big shopping bags, and my ex-boyfriend's father came to help his wife carry the bags. He told me that he's sorry about his son's behavior. So that's it. I'm single now. Do I hope he comes to his senses and reaches back out to me sometime in the future? A little. Do I believe that will happen? No. User 1 says, if he gets his crap together, forsake this foolish idea of changing you and accepts you, or even agrees to go LC with the uncle, can you see it working between you? Is he showing remorse? OP says, at the moment we're no contact, and I think I'll leave it at that for now. I don't know what I will do if he comes back. This is all so new and my head spins from forget him to, but I miss him, to, but he lied, to, why can't he just be normal again, to, call him, and so on. Has OOP reached out to her ex since then? OOP says, I tried to contact him yesterday. That was when his mother picked up the phone. He didn't want to talk to me, and I respect that. At the moment, I don't really know if I would want to talk to him. I wouldn't know what to talk about. I'm heartbroken and feel betrayed, and telling him that wouldn't make anything better and just result in a fight. User 2 says, he's in his late 20s and his parents come to pick his stuff up? LOL. OP replies, looking back, I'm glad his mother came to pick up his stuff. As much as I miss the good times with him, I think seeing him would have made this whole situation a lot harder for me. Another commenter says, traditional Muslim women will have traditional Muslim woman expectations. Her income stays hers 100%. He cannot drink or smoke or eat/do haram stuff. He needs to be pious, responsible for all of the finances, etc. He wants the double whammy of a very diluted pick-and-choose Islam, her contributing half the money on top of the house and kids being her responsibility, but also wearing a headscarf and being subservient to him despite contributing way more than 50%. Also, the traditional Muslim woman will have her entire family and community behind her if he does not act right, while the non-Muslim woman will have no Muslim family on her side that knows what's fair and isn't fair, which makes it more difficult to get him to act right towards her as a Muslim, as they would not really know what to expect or how to support her in that regard. Everything will be put away as, oh, that's Western values. They don't understand. I'm telling you, it's like this. So, kind of wild story. I mean, obviously a big mistake getting together with someone with such diametrically opposed religious upbringings. And I mean, honestly, I know he was kind of swayed there by his uncle or whatever, but man, shame on the ex for insisting and saying that it doesn't matter what you wear, how you cover your hair, I'm good with it. And then right when you get to the point of talking about like engagement, now you just do a complete 180 without talking with her about it first. She was absolutely right to leave him. And hopefully, she ends up getting with someone that's more aligned religiously, because this was just a recipe. I hate to say it, but it was a recipe for disaster from the start. That's not to say that it can't work out, but you're basically starting a relationship on the back foot, behind the 8 ball, working an uphill battle when you enter into it with such, again, different parameters and viewpoints. Story 4. Found suspicious messages on my wife's phone. So we've been going through a bit of a bad patch for a while. One evening, my wife wanted to be romantic, but I didn't read the signs and messed it up a bit. She was angry and frustrated, and thus we had quite a frank and predictably overdue discussion about our marriage. During this, she brought up opening up the marriage as a way to save it. I was a bit shell-shocked, really, and didn't follow up with more questions, as I would have if more level-headed in the moment. We had further discussions about what we want, what we can change. I asked her if she still wanted to open the marriage, and she said she would. I said I'd think about it. I wasn't sure what to think, so went here and searched for opening up the marriage. Basically, almost every post said the other party is likely already cheating or has someone lined up. Of course, no one wants to believe that, but of course it got the alarm bells ringing. In the meantime, another guy kind of starts being more present, which I thought was a bit odd. I mean, I would usually have no suspicions, but everything added together made me uneasy. I'm not proud of this, but I decided to look through her phone, and there were a lot of messages, like multiple per day, from this guy, and they seemed quite close. Been messaging for perhaps 6 months or so? He messaged that he really likes her, but not really any big smoking guns from her side. She seemed more cagey in her responses. Even after he messaged her his feelings, she still kept up communication and didn't set any strong boundaries with him or anything. She sent him a picture from a day trip we made, and said she hoped it didn't make him uneasy when he met the rest of her family one time. Basically, it got to him then asking when he can see her again, and her replying that it's tricky and she isn't sure. She's been going to concerts alone quite a lot recently, and she was there, she sent the pics, etc., and seemed to meet him at the first one she was alone at, since they don't seem to have been arranging to meet up these concerts semi-regularly. I broached the subject with her by saying that the circumstances around her asking for an open relationship and this guy suddenly being on the scene, and she said she's not at all interested in him, but when I asked if he has feelings for her, she said no idea. Of course, that last part is a lie. I have no idea how to proceed. Of course, I shouldn't have looked through her phone without asking. This is something I never did before, as I had no reason to, and I feel really bad about that. On the other hand, she's been keeping secrets from me, deceiving me, and perhaps worse. Would love to hear comments and advice. Thank you. OP makes many updates in the comments, so this is update comment number 1. Update. Just spoke to her about it. She got very angry about me looking at her phone. She still insists that nothing happened and she was enjoying the attention somewhat that she didn't feel she was getting from me, which is why she didn't tell me. Things have been tough between us for a while. She was very upset. I don't know, feel kinda crappy right now. And now we've got some relevant comments here. So this is when told his wife has been dating this guy at concerts, and that's why she wants an open marriage. I'm not sure anymore. She said she's not interested in him. Yes, they did arrange to meet, but there was nothing. But she's super mad now, mainly because I'd read the messages yesterday and didn't confront her immediately. We had a really nice evening and great sex. Honestly, I did want to believe her and tried to put it out of my mind, and maybe I do believe her. Feel a bit like I effed up though. Could be the end. I don't know. And this is where the open marriage idea came from. She got the idea from another couple that we're friends with. They've opened their marriage and seem to be enjoying it. I couldn't do that though. And when the open marriage is brought up, it's the end of a marriage. I already turned down opening the marriage, which she accepted. Still, the question doesn't feel good. I can believe that she met this guy, who is actually quite a lot older, at the first concert. They have similar music tastes, so land up at similar concerts. I could believe that nothing happened from her side, apart from enjoying the attention, I guess, but I can't be sure, of course. And then another update in the comments. This is update comment number 2. Sorry for the late update, still figuring it out for myself. My wife ended, by her own initiative, I didn't demand it, the contact to this other guy. Apparently he responded, it's a shame that a grown-up man and woman can't have a friendship. The cheek of it. I don't think I'm being lied to, though. No. She did say that she's not prepared to totally ignore him if/when he's also at concerts we go to together. There are regular small concerts locally which we've enjoyed for a couple of years. It is a bit of an awkward situation in that sense. I will raise the open marriage topic again. As I posted, it's something that seems to work for friends of ours, which is where she said she got the idea, but I'm not sure we can go on if this is something she really desires. We still have a lot of talking to do, I think. We've been on much better terms lately. It feels like we've turned a corner. Feels like we're a proper couple again. I do believe her when she said that nothing happened. Well, nothing physical, and we've discussed the secret stuff. Can I be 100% sure? I guess not. But either I can forgive, hopefully learn to trust again, or otherwise that will be the end of us. Right now, I'm not sure. Still dealing with lots of emotions which we need to talk through. I guess the easiest would have been to end it, but I still think we can have a great future together. I hope so at least. Then update 1, same post. Apart from the updates in the comments section here, I wanted to add a larger update, trying to keep to the facts as I know them and were able to deduce from her messages. So we had an initial discussion after I raised this whole thing after reading her messages. She'd blown up as I'd raised it after knowing about it for more than a day and us having a nice evening together. We had plans which couldn't be rearranged, which is why I didn't raise anything immediately. I know you'll say gaslighting, deflection, etc. could be true. We had a chat the next day, and for me, her explanation seemed plausible. They'd met during a concert and swapped numbers. The following concerts, semi-regularly, like once every 1 to 2 months, were ones that they would have attended anyway. This makes sense. Of course they said they were going to them, and I guess chatted there. There were also other people from a larger group of an unrelated concert series who were also there. As far as I know, they had only directly arranged to meet alone for one concert. I'm certain nothing sexual happened, as there wasn't the opportunity. I can't rule out other physical stuff, like kiss, hand-holding, etc. She ended the friendship with this guy at her own behest. I accepted that explanation and wanted to move forwards, and we had a great week or so. Of course, emotions aren't easy to suppress, and I raised the thing again recently after not sleeping well, etc. She blew up again about saying how she feels used, that we can't continue if I don't trust her, that she ended contact with that guy for me, and that now she feels like rolling that back and reestablishing contact with him if I don't trust her anyway. I know you'll say again, typical deflection. I'm just wondering if there's the smallest chance she's telling the truth now, and her anger is for a genuine reason? Or is it more guilt/deflection talking? I guess there's no way to know for sure, right? I'm not sure if there's a chance of saving this now. The minimum would be continued no contact from this guy, and I'm also thinking of suggesting an open phone policy. At the end of the day, I'm being made to feel bad because I don't trust her, that she deserves her privacy. Never got much remorse for the secrecy, by the way, other than an I made a mistake, it won't happen again. But I feel like she has to earn my trust back, and not the other way around. Let's read some relevant comments here. I think this post describes the situation well. We had somewhat grown apart, and for sure she wasn't getting much attention from me. Not that I'm only blaming myself here, but I can also see my part in this mess. I feel like she wanted to make it work with us. I hope for genuine reasons. I've already told her I looked through her phone. She has, in fact, now changed her code, without telling me that. It also seems like she's determined to keep contact with this guy, who she insists is a friend, and I can't tell her who she can or can't meet. Which is, on the face of it, a fair comment, unless it's something that will/could possibly damage our relationship. Thus, with the history of secrecy here, and the somewhat expression of feelings from his side, I think it's entirely reasonable to insist on no contact with him. After reflecting, I would have another chat with her. I'd like to insist on no contact with that other guy, open phone policy, fine from my side, I think she would resist, and I'd like to review together with her the chat history with that guy, as she said I read too much into it. I think if we do that, we could have a chance. She's resisting marriage counseling. If not, I think I would sadly have to end things, which would break my heart, especially for our kids, but I can't continue like this. And now, update 2. Since then, we've had a number of chats about what happened. Each time she gets angry, defensive, and tries to turn the blame on me. Remorse about zero, and not even an apology. She partially admits she wouldn't find it cool if I did that, but then says she's effectively being punished for having made a new male friend. She did cut contact with the guy when I first found out in her own initiative. She says she understands why I'm upset. Honestly, we seem so far apart on this issue, I can't see a way forward. I suspect most/all of the comments here will recommend divorce, but I'm finding it hard to pull the trigger, even though I can't see another way forward right now. Now let's read a few more relevant comments here. User 1 says, "Welcome to the rest of your life. Sign you both up for couples counseling, as I suggested 2 months ago, so you can air this out in a different context. Otherwise, the poison of distrust will continue to permeate your relationship and your heart. She half knows she did you wrong, but her ego isn't letting her fully surrender to respecting you as well as your marriage with any kind of apology or remorse. If it's not her ego, then she continues to possess strong feelings for this other man, and if so, you're not living in the present. Do you really want to live this way for the next 2 decades? If she isn't cooperative enough for couples counseling, that is a firm sign of lack of commitment to your future relationship. At that point, she'll start mixing other men into her social relationships, if only to spite you. Negative energy like that kills marriages." OP replies, "Could definitely be an ego thing. She almost never apologizes. I was quite shocked when I got an apology recently. She's been quite against couples counseling, but maybe I'll just sign us up and go on my own if I have to. Might be that she then decides to come along after all." And then OP made a tiny update. I spoke to my wife this morning and she reluctantly agreed to do MC. Not sure what the outcome will be, but hopefully will help to resolve things one way or the other. And then OP added these comments after the BORU. Comment 1. Update. I foolishly asked her if we could set a time to discuss things. Stupidly thought we might be able to resolve things calmly. She asked what topics we would discuss. I said we should discuss both our resentment that have built up over the years plus the secrecy around that guy. She started getting angry again. I said I didn't want to discuss it if she's getting angry. We continued anyway. She said she didn't want to discuss that again, that there was nothing. She said it happened because she was unhappy with us, blaming me, and she was almost ready to split up. Indirectly acknowledged that she was dishonest, but she wouldn't promise that it won't happen again in the future. So, no remorse. At that point, I'm thinking, wow. And then comment 2. Thanks for your insightful comment. I'd say the relationship wasn't good for the last 2 years at least. We've been together for 15 years, married for 11. She felt like I wasn't paying her enough attention, affection, etc., and sex was lacking. Both fair grievances. In some ways, I don't think we're a great match. We have many common interests, but our personalities are perhaps mismatched. I'm quite introverted and quiet, and she finds that quite frustrating sometimes. I'm quite happy with her, apart from how she handles disagreements and conflicts. She's very quick to anger and gives silent treatment, is often criticizing and sometimes belittling. For sure there's resentment from both sides from past stuff. I'm also not sure if there's much to save or whether we can get past this, and if we do, that there won't be ongoing resentment. MC or separation is the only way. I just need to choose whether to go straight to separation or not. Story 5. Never have a sexual relationship with somebody in your building. It ain't worth it. So, this woman in my building kept making idle convo with me. Eventually, she asked for us to exchange numbers. I did so. We started texting, one thing led to another, and we ended up having sex a few times. Now, I told her from the beginning I'm focused on improving my life right now, and I don't want a girlfriend, but hey, if you just want to have fun, we can have fun. So, the more we had sex, the more she kept randomly showing up at my door, all hours, asking to hang out, and it just began to be what I said I wasn't looking for, so I cut her off. Fast forward, my car windows have been busted out twice, she's emptied a whole bag of trash in front of my apartment door, and took my clothes out the washer mid-wash and dumped them on the floor. I'm too embarrassed to tell the leasing office about the situation, and I don't want to involve the police. Basically, I guess I'ma have to move, and it sucks because I love my apartment. I even tried talking to her and being very kind about it, but her response is to go back to how it used to be, or she will keep doing stuff. Any advice? Also, my building has entry locks and a parking garage with limited access, and that's what makes me so mad, is that no other woman could be easily making my life this hellish if she didn't live in the building. Let's read some relevant comments here. One user says, explain the situation to your leasing office. File a police report for your car windows. Maybe get a restraining order. Nothing to be embarrassed about. You should be focused on improving your life, and shouldn't have to move out of the apartment you love. OP replies, yeah, I've been saving the text just in case I do decide to go to the leasing office, but damn, I just don't like everyone knowing my business, but this situation has become a nightmare, SMH. User 2 says, we deal with stuff like this all the time in the office, and way more intense than that. Just tell them you had a casual relationship with another resident, tried cutting it off, and now you feel like she's harassing you. They'll follow up with her and will post a legal notice if they have proof, something that can hold up in court. She's harassing you. Just another day in property management. OP replies, yeah, the leasing office lady is pretty chill, so I'm sure she'll understand and help. It's just like I enjoy being a ghost tenant. Pay my rent online, maintenance request online, like leasing never hears from me, and for me to have to go talk to them about this pisses me off, but it's my fault for even messing with her to begin with. User 3 says, this happened to me. It's really scary dealing with an unhinged person. Don't give her any attention. Don't try to reason or apologize. She feels powerful and is feeding off your fear and discomfort. Keep a log and take photos. Go to the leasing office with evidence. Read up on personality disorders so you can spot one a mile away. OP replies, you're totally right. She's feeding off my fear and discomfort, like I gotta sit in the laundry room for 2 hours to make sure my clothes aren't damaged. SMH. Then we get an update post. So yesterday I posted about a problem I was having with a woman in my apartment building who had started making my life hell after we had casual sex a few times and I decided to cut her off. Well, this morning I took off work, went to the leasing office, and explained the situation to the leasing lady. I explained the situation and showed her all the text evidence and pics I had. She was more mad about it than I was and basically said I should have came to her the first time she did anything. I was so glad that she understood the situation. She said she's going to check the parking garage cameras on the dates my car windows got busted out and see if they got her on film clearly. She also said she's going to send old girl an email saying that doing stuff like this is grounds for eviction. She said she can't evict her yet until they have full proof it was her, but she sounded dedicated to getting that proof. Thanks everyone for the advice. Hopefully this gets resolved and I don't have to move. Let's read some more relevant comments here. User 4 says, good for the leasing office lady. I'm glad she's helping you out and you won't have to buy your own cameras for evidence. The crazy and controlling girl probably won't even expect it, honestly, since her emotions are so far ahead of her, lol. OP replies, yeah, honestly, the leasing lady turning up how she did makes me want to keep my apartment even more. Like, she really was mad about the situation. She even said email her any time of the day if anything else happens. User 5 says, make sure you don't have her blocked on anything, so if she sends you some more unhinged crap, then you have it on record. You can mute her notifications so whatever she sends you doesn't need to impact you. Also, please keep us updated over the next few weeks/days. I have a feeling this isn't the end of things, cause I know that behavior is legit insane. OP replies, will do. Thanks. I blocked her number cause she would keep calling me 24/7 back to back, especially when I realized there was no convo that could be had which she would agree to stop. I'ma try to mute her calls. Update 2. So this morning, the leasing lady calls me and tells me to come to the office. I get there and she has 4K crystal clear footage of old girl breaking my windows out on 2 different occasions. Old girl didn't cover her face or nothing. Plus, one time she broke them out, she went to her car to get something before going back in the building. Not only did she have the car footage, but she had elevator footage of old girl taking a full bag of trash to my floor, then getting back on the elevator with an empty bag. So, leasing lady asked if I wanted to call the cops. I said nah, because I honestly just try to deal with the police as least as possible. I just told her that she can handle the situation however she wants. I just need old girl to leave me alone or else I'ma have to move, unfortunately. She said, okay, gotcha, I'ma take care of it. Couple hours later, leasing lady calls me and says the cops just came and picked old girl up. I'm like, what? She said, yeah, she called the cops and told them she had a tenant who's been breaking in cars at night. She said that since it happened on apartment property, the leasing agency can file charges without me. She said she didn't mention me or anything. She also said old girl is getting evicted. On top of that, she gave me a $300 rent credit for next month to help cover some of my window repairs because in her exact words, quote, that lunatic should have never been living here in the first place. Best leasing lady ever. Let's check out some top comments. User 5 says, don't crap where you eat. And user 6 says, damn, got laid and paid. Credited. And the property kicked her out for you. User 7 says, oh man, crazy bang is only cool when they don't know where you live. Haha. Yeah, this guy's a lot more chill about it than I would have been. Like, she's literally messing with your stuff, not only messing with it, damaging it, busting out your car windows twice. You don't want to call the cops, so you're gonna pay out of pocket or pay, out your deductible on insurance to get that covered. She dumps your clothes out. She dumps trash in front of your door. Like, why are you so chill about this? You don't want anyone to know your business, but you're going on Reddit telling everybody. Now, here I am narrating it, so even more people are going to find out about your business. It's just really weird. I mean, obviously, this girl is, has a problem. We've got to keep it PG on here. But, I don't understand why he was so passive. But hey, I guess you got your happy ending anyway. So who cares what I think? Story 6. Would I be the a-hole for divorcing my wife for accusing me of cheating on her? Me, 44M, my wife Grace, 42F. Fake names for obvious reasons. Same with throwaway account. Married for 13 years, together for 16. Quick backstory. I met Grace about the time I got out of the military. It was a medical discharge. I met her while I was at the hospital for surgery. She was a nurse on the floor I was staying on. Single mom, divorced for a couple years. I left the military, went back to school, and now I work from home as a software engineer, more or less. We started dating, took it slow the first couple of years because of her daughter, Maya, who was 5 at the time. Grace is still a nurse and Maya goes to college. I would have said until last month that our marriage was pretty solid. We've had arguments. I admit I was kind of crap at housekeeping when we first moved in together because I was not used to how much kids tear things up around the house. But other than that, it was good. No step-parent issues. I had an active role in Maya's life because her own father lives overseas for work. We went on dates. Intimacy has always been great. We wanted kids, but it wasn't in the cards for us. Honestly, I'm a bit blindsided. I've had friends who were blindsided by divorce, but I've never understood how. Usually there were problems that they glossed over, and then suddenly their wives would leave them and they just didn't see it coming. but the rest of us could see it coming from a mile away. So here I am saying the same thing, and maybe I just missed something huge. The past few months, Grace has been more stressed than usual. Ever since COVID, she's been burnt out, and I asked her multiple times if she wanted to quit her job, or at least for a couple of years. I thought the burnout was coming to a head. She was withdrawn, angry. She snapped at me constantly. She ridiculed Maya over everything, but she's my wife. She was traumatized by the pandemic, and both Maya and I were understanding. We would do okay with just my salary, so last month I sat her down to suggest again that she quit and take some time off to heal. Then everything blew up. She started yelling at me that she knew what I was doing. She's known for months. She has proof. I didn't know what she was talking about at first, but it didn't take long to realize she was accusing me of infidelity. I can't lie, I was angry as hell. I opened my phone, handed it to her, and told her to go through it. I went and got my laptop, unlocked it, and told her to go through that. The whole time, she's still shouting at me about some other woman. I don't have traditional social media accounts. I'm on Lobsters, Hacker News, and I have a Reddit account. I told her to check everything. There's no secret Facebook or Instagram or whatever. No messages from anyone. I opened Discord, even Slack. Everything I could think of, but she wouldn't even look at it. She just got angrier and angrier, and then she picked up my laptop and threw it. That's when I had enough and left. I went to my parents' house. All the while, Grace was texting and calling and leaving more and more unhinged messages about this woman she knows I'm with. When I got to my parents' house, I called her once and told her I needed a few days because I was too angry to handle talking to her. My sister called the next morning and told her Grace had called her multiple times as well to see if I was really there. After a few days, I called Grace to talk, and at first the conversation was productive. She apologized for throwing the laptop, but she said I made her so angry because I was being so calm. I told her I was not calm because I was being accused of cheating on my wife, and I was furious, but it was either try to talk it out or start shouting, which I didn't think was a good idea. Then she got angry, told me I was twisting her words, and things fell apart quickly. She started going on and on that she knew I was cheating. She had proof. I asked her what proof, because I would like to see it. I don't remember how we got there, but she said she was going to send everything to the lawyer, and I said fine. Send a copy to mine because this was going nowhere. She got really quiet after that and asked if I was serious, and I said I wasn't going to stay in a marriage where my wife thinks I cheated on her, but won't tell me why. We ended the call there, and I've been at my parents' house since. My dad is on my side. My mom thinks Grace is just having a rough time and that we can talk this through. My sister is pissed she got dragged into it, so she thinks we're both a-holes. And Maya is miserable because she's being torn between me and her mom. I feel like maybe I jumped the gun and should have stayed calmer. Edit. My morning meetings are finally over and I need to concentrate on my job, so I'm going to be logging out for the day. I'm going to talk to my mom and see if she'll talk to Grace. Suggest therapy, couples therapy, etc. I believe those of you who suggested missing reasons are correct. Something is causing this. I just don't know if it's something I've done, stress in her life, or if it's full-on projection. I don't think it is, but you never know. I'll assure Maya again that she has a place here no matter what. As far as I'm concerned, she's my daughter, and of course she's got a place here if she needs it. However, I won't try to pressure her considering that's her mom, and I know this is pulling her in two ways. Second edit. Okay, so I took a quick break and thought I'd come back and read a couple comments, but there are way too many to read. But there's an overall theme to them, so I'll try to quickly address them here. 1. Someone asked if I was cheating. I understand why you asked that. I never came out and said in the post, but let me assure you, no, I'm not cheating. I never have. Granted, those are just words, and I'm sure some of you will think that I'm lying. But I love my wife. I never wanted to cheat. I'm not a saint. I've been attracted to people. I think Salma Hayek is gorgeous, but the thought of cheating has never crossed my mind. 2. A lot of people think she's cheating on me. Again, I don't think so. She's home every night at the same time. She doesn't hide away her devices. Could there be someone at work? Yes. Do I think she's cheating? No. But as many pointed out, those are famous last words. 3. Talking about divorce/staying calm. I have PTSD. I've worked a lot in therapy over the years to process intense emotions. That's why I stay calm. Not because I am, but because if I don't, then I get overwhelmed. The talk to my lawyer comment was one of those moments I didn't process well. I don't think it's a good idea to divorce her after over a decade together because of this past month. On the other hand, I know that because it's not a safe place for me mentally, I'll stay at my parents until we get this resolved. 4. Could it be hormones? Yes, it could. However, my wife is already taking hormones because of a medical procedure she had when she was in her early 30s. Like I said, it wasn't in the cards to have kids. She has to see the doctor usually every 6 months to check her levels. Her last appointment was in March. However, her mood changes started before that. 5. Mental health issues? This is what I think it is personally. Like I said, Grace has been building up to a burnout for a while now. These mood changes started a while ago. It's why I brought up taking time off of work. It's why I brought it up again last month when she blew up at me. I think this is stress. It's why I haven't actually contacted a lawyer, because I hope my marriage can be saved. I think I just want reassurance from a neutral third party because I'm so far out of my depth here. 6. To those who say don't get my mom involved, my mom already is. She and Grace are incredibly close. She's called Grace every day to check on her. Grace has no contact with her own family, so I'm not really involving mom as much as I'm just asking her to suggest marriage counseling to her the next time she calls. I sure as hell don't want to get some other party involved in this, so I'm not going to contact a friend to talk to my wife. 7. I haven't been no contact with my wife since I left. I probably should have clarified that. She messages me. Sometimes it's the same silly stuff we've always talked about, like random memes she's found or crap her coworkers are doing. And sometimes it's her begging me to just tell her the truth. I'm exhausted mentally from this, all at the end of my rope. I've suggested therapy a couple of times already, but that's gotten nowhere. Hopefully mom bringing it up might help. 8. Why the throwaway? Because my coworkers also have Reddit accounts, and I don't want them to see this post. They might, but hopefully software guy in his 40s with a wife in nursing is generic enough to American audiences that they won't know it's me. But if it's on my actual account, they definitely will. No one at work knows, and I'd like to keep it that way. I think that's everything. I want to add though, please don't disparage my wife. I'm upset over this because my wife is a great woman. She's smart, she's funny, she's sweet, she's been a wonderful mother, and that's why I've been worried the past few months about her, because this is so out of character. Now here's a little bit more additional information from OP. Well, yes, I would love to tell you why she thinks I'm cheating, but she literally won't tell me. If it's because I'm on my computer too much, or because I use my phone weird, or I'm taking phone calls at odd hours, I don't know. She will not tell me why she thinks I'm cheating. And that's the worst part of this. I could at least figure out what I might need to change. Maybe I'm not being intimate enough. Maybe I haven't set up enough dates. Maybe she's feeling like I'm being distant, but I don't know. And I want to know. I love my wife. I've loved my wife since our second date. I knew I wanted to marry her after the first month. This isn't an argument over me not doing the dishes right or her watching the rest of Fall of the House of Usher without me. She's accusing me of cheating on her, and she won't tell me why. And I can't fix what I don't know. And because I don't know, you don't know. If you can track my wife down and get her side of the story, please pass it on to me. I would also like to know her side of the story. Let's read some relevant comments here. This is OP on getting therapy for himself and his wife. OP says, I'd be happy for any sort of therapy. I've had to do it on and off for years, but she refuses because she thinks it's useless. I'll suggest it, but I don't hold out too much hope. I'm thinking because she's so resistant to go to a therapist, I might suggest she goes and checks with her PCP. She's been showing symptoms of burnout for a while, so depression, exhaustion, getting annoyed with us really easily. I personally think this is some kind of issue with stress. User 1 says, usually when blanket accusations, it's because they are doing it. Investigate her cheating, especially if in an at-fault state. OP says, I don't think she's cheating, but then you're right, it could be projection. She's never accused me of this before. This is brand new, hence why it was so startling. If she had been doing this for years, I think you'd be right. It's why I'm having so much trouble with the whole situation. None of it makes sense. Then this is OP on if his wife is likely to receive strange texting scams from someone else that accuses him of cheating on his wife. OP replies, this is something I'd never even thought of, so I will definitely look into this. Thank you. I had no idea that this was even a thing, but it would explain why she hasn't shown me the proof yet, because she's waiting on it. Then we get a quick update here. I don't have the energy or patience to go back to AITAH, so I'm just doing this here. A quick and dirty update. No, my wife is not cheating on me. As far as I know, she's not sick, got a tumor, or showing signs of early dementia. If she were, those things would be easier to process. Maybe it's premenopause or menopause. I don't know. I don't care. Yes, I will be seeking a divorce. No, I will not go into it farther. I've already spoken to a lawyer. Maya is currently living with me and my parents. I'll be looking for an apartment/condo to rent soon. I feel like I've overstayed my welcome. Maya is thinking of taking some time off to visit her dad. I don't blame her. I'm a effing mess right now. I don't even know why I logged back into this account other than to say no, my wife really wasn't cheating on me. I can honestly say I wish she was. It'd be so much effing easier than this crap. Thanks for the advice and the concern. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry if this isn't the right community, but my friend suggested it, and I thought maybe this might be the right place to vent, or get advice or something. I'm not sure what information is necessary or relevant, so I'm just going to write everything down I can think of. I've been married to my wife Grace for 13 years. We've been together for 16. When we first got together, she told me she was low/no contact with her family. There was some obvious trauma regarding it, and as someone with PTSD, I respected that she may not be ready to share it. Plus, my family loved her, so I was happy to share. After dating for a while, right before I proposed, she told me more about her family. Grace is from a deeply fundamentalist Christian family. I know the umbrella stuff was a big deal, as well as marrying young and a lot of really effed up crap. She got married at 16 to the son of family friends. He was 19. She was kind of lucky in a way, because her ex-husband moved across the state and away from her family, and she was able to finish school and start college. From what I can gather, he wanted out of the cult too. She had their daughter, Maya, when she was 21, and he was finishing up his last year of school. When he finished school, he went off to grad school in Europe, and she moved back home to her family. They got divorced soon after. After the divorce, her family tried to marry Grace off to a guy that was over twice her age, which was her cue to finally get out too. From what little she would tell me, it was not an easy exit. A lot of violence was involved, and she suggested there's SA/attempted kidnapping from the older man. However, eventually she got out. She took her daughter, moved in with a distant aunt, cut off most of the family. A few years later, she met me, and the rest was history. Until this year. The past few months, my wife has been very snappish, sudden bouts of anger, withdrawn. She's a nurse, and I thought at first she was burnt out. She was working days at a time with no break during the pandemic. I thought the trauma of that and just non-stop COVID crap was finally coming to a head, and I suggested a few times maybe she should take some time off. The last time I suggested it, she blew up at me and started accusing me of cheating. It was an intense fight. She said she had proof, and I wanted to see it. She threw my laptop, and I left. We had another fight a bit later over the phone, where she said she'd send the proof of my infidelity to a lawyer, and I said pass it on to mine. After that, we mostly talked via text, and it was mostly her sending me updates at work or silly memes. Periodically, she'd plead with me to tell her the truth about the cheating, but I had no idea what the hell she was talking about. For the past few weeks, I've been waiting to see what proof she had, for her to talk to me more than a few memes here and there. Anything. I've been living with my parents, and it's been effing stressful. I was thinking I was never going to find out what was going on until a few days ago when she showed up at my parents' to talk. And finally, she told me the proof of me cheating on her was her coworker had told my wife she had seen me with another, much younger woman. So, okay, I can handle that. I asked some follow-up questions. What did she look like? Where was this? Etc. I figure out pretty quickly she's talking about Maya. We go to the hospital to eat lunch with her sometimes, and her coworker must have seen us together. Simple mistake, right? Except my wife knew that her coworker was describing Maya and was more or less suggesting I was cheating on her with the child I helped raise and calls me dad. I tried not to get angry because I know she has a lot of trauma with older men being with younger women, especially after what her parents tried to force her to do. But at the same time, I felt disgusted and betrayed she'd ever think I'd do that. And in the end, the conversation devolved into another argument. During that argument, she admitted that it wasn't just any coworker. The coworker is her first cousin Sheila, and Sheila is still in the church. It all starts tumbling out that she's been hanging out with Sheila during downtime. She's been calling and talking to her dad, the one that tried to marry her off to a man older than I am right now. She's been going to church meetings again when I thought she was at work. And you know what? None of the church stuff would be a problem. If she wants to be a Christian, whatever. Except everything she's spewing is a contradiction to every other thing she's spewing. First, I evidently am in my prime years for children. I'm 44. I'm past my prime for kids. Maya is 21, and I'm thrilled to have her living at home, but I'm also thrilled she can clean her own bathroom. Because my dad is secular Jewish, he's evil, and that evil is passed down to me. My mom is more evil because she was Christian. She never really was. Her family was lapsed Catholic. I'm not sure she's ever even been to Mass. But mom turned her back on the church and didn't raise me Christian, which is evil. My mom, a woman who loves my wife probably more than she loves me, is now a sinner and deceitful, according to my wife. But more than all that, the part that makes me sickest and pushed me to actually call a lawyer was that she suggested our daughter, brilliant, amazing kid that loves her mom so much, is to blame because she's, quote, young and flaunting herself. It's all jumbled up in my brain. There was so much more. She went on for what felt like hours before I asked her to leave. I wasn't a good provider because she had to work. I know I reminded her that I was suggesting she take time off work, but evidently that was proof that I was just trying to isolate her from her family. There were so many effing tangents and conspiracies, like suggesting she get therapy, which I've been doing since before the pandemic, but especially after the pandemic, was me trying to brainwash her to be okay with me having an affair with Maya. I don't understand any of it. I don't know where to go from here. I don't know how to even start. That evening, after my wife left, Maya called crying because her mom was saying some really awful crap to her. So I told Maya to come stay with my parents and that just added flames to the fire. So now Grace thinks we're living together. I called a lawyer and I think my marriage is over and I don't know what to do. I don't know where the fundamentalist crap starts and where the conspiracy ends and what I'm even supposed to do to fix things. I don't know that I can fix things. I don't even know how I miss things falling apart to this extent. I'm a bit drunk. Be patient with me. I saw my wife earlier today. Wanted to sit down and start talking about what divorce was going to look like between us. We have over a decade of our finances, our home, our lives intermingled. I've been paying for Maya's school. It's her job that we get most of our insurance coverage from. I put the down payment on our house, but she's paid off just as much of it as I have. We'll have lawyers do all this, but at the same time, I wanted to look at her and make her see what she was doing. Divorce isn't just a word, it's a real concrete thing. The lives that we've been living are over as we know it. We're not old, it's not like we can't move on from this, but at the same time, I've been her husband for so long, I don't know who I am without her. When I got home, I started drinking and I haven't stopped all evening, which is effing stupid. Don't do what I did. I just couldn't stop. I kept seeing her, sitting across from me, refusing to look at me. I don't know her anymore. And I'm not sure if I ever did. My therapist talks about masking, right? Because of the PTSD and ADHD and crap, I mask a lot with coworkers or clients or whatever, but I never had to mask at home. And now I'm wondering if this entire marriage, she was just masking being happy with me. Was she miserable the whole time? Did she pick me because I was stable and a good dad figure to Maya? I'm not ugly. I'm not handsome either. Our sex life was good, but was it? Was she just doing it because she learned all that crap as a kid that she had to please her husband? I feel sick. I feel like I abused her because I don't know how much of it was her and how much was just the programming she went through in that effing church. And Maya, Christ, Maya is just, she's not great. She's trying so hard to be stoic and strong, but she's my baby girl. I taught her how to fish, and she's better at it than I am. She taught me how to knit when I was having trouble with work during the pandemic and struggling with the lockdown. She's such an amazing kid, and she's hurting, and I hate Grace for that. I hate her for hurting our kid, but I love her, and that hurts too. I don't know what the point of this was. I came back to read over the theories about cheating on me or menopause. I thought what we had was fixable. I thought if I worked at it, we could change things. And it's just over. It's so effing final. Let that be a lesson. Sometimes crap just ends, and there's nothing any of us can do about it. Let's read one more relevant comment here. User 2 says, "You and Maya will get through this, and she will need you more than ever now. I was hoping this was going to be a silly misunderstanding. Keep Maya out of this cult if possible. Best of luck to both of you, and take care of yourself. Maybe get some kind of counseling. This would be a major transition if it were a simple divorce, and it's very not simple. So clearly, and obviously, the marriage is over. Right? Wife's kind of gone off the deep end here and is just spewing a bunch of nonsensical nonsense, right? It's not like this whole religious cult thing is the sole proprietor of her, drifting mentally. It's also the fact that she is convinced in her mind that her husband is cheating on her with her daughter. That accusation alone is enough to just completely burn a marriage to the ground. So you layer all this other insanity on top of it, and yeah, I mean, you I know it's tough, right? You've been married for a while, but you got to cut the cord and move on. And thankfully, the daughter, Maya, I know that's a code name, but Maya is a grown adult. I believe it said she was like 21 or something like that. So she is fully within her rights to also go NC with her mom and maintain that strong relationship with her stepdad and his family. So hopefully that's what they end up doing. And ex-wife, soon to be ex-wife, gets the help that she needs to kind of get back on track. Story 7. I, 27M, met one of my closest friends, 28F, about 2 years ago at the library, and I'm completely in love with her. The only issue is I'm afraid she's going to think I'm shallow when I finally ask her out, because she used to be chubby. How do I tell her how I feel without offending her? Throwaway is she's an active Redditor and I really don't want her to find this, but I could use some outside advice. Realize this is super long, TLDR at the bottom. For context, when we met, I was in a toxic relationship with my now ex. She was focusing on school, working, and getting in shape, so I never really saw her romantically due to these factors, but I've always thought she was a beautiful person and a joy to be around. I'll call her Kelsey. I've told her things I wouldn't dream of telling my ex. Talked for hours about anything. Played board games, watched movies, went to restaurants, invited her to my book club, and just included her in almost every aspect of my life, as she did the same with me, but we were rarely alone together. Nothing intimate besides hugs and jokes with friends, so never really thought of her like that. I finally had enough of the years-long verbal abuse, threatening to harm myself and mind games with my ex, when I started to realize I was spending more time with Kelsey and would sometimes forget about my own girlfriend as Kelsey made me happy and ex filled me with dread. It was roughly 7 months ago when I broke up with her. Kelsey 2 years ago was a bit chubby and she was working really hard to get it off, so I was super supportive of her and gave her fitness nutrition tips. She's gone from 195 to 130, but her heaviest was apparently 260, and you cannot even tell she once was that size. I'm so proud of her, and ever since the breakup, she's all I can think about, and we've been spending some time alone now. Her lips, the way she laughs, her smile, her eyes, and yes, her body is incredible. The fact she put in the work to lose the weight and is disciplined to keep it off while working and going to school makes her even sexier to me. She's always been there without me even asking. She would just know I needed her support in some way, and I would always find a way to let her know I truly appreciated her. I had a feeling she felt the same about me, but I let a bunch of insecurities. I'm freakishly tall, had been called boring, told I talk too much, hate my chin, etc. Stop me from telling her how I felt. A few weeks ago, we were all at a taco joint with friends, stuffing our faces and having a great time until a guy approached her and offered to buy her a drink. My heart sank and I immediately wanted to tell him off. She's not interested, but was able to fight it off as I knew it was irrational and I had no right. She sweetly agreed with some encouragement from the girls at the table and followed him to the bar and they started chatting. I had never been so angry, sad, and guilty at the same time about a woman. The time I've known her, she's been single except for a few dates that ended up wanting to just be casual, which really hurt her as she doesn't hook up and hasn't been intimate with anyone for a few years since she was focusing on herself. Guys and girls hit on her all the time, and it's always made me irrationally upset, even before I realized I loved her because they didn't know her. So I should have been happy that she was talking to this guy and seemingly enjoying herself. She was giggling, smiling, sharing nachos with him. I was unbelievably bummed, so I started to head out as I didn't want to watch her flirt with this guy and cause a scene. When I got home, I saw she sent me a good night text saying, "Hope I feel better." Friends told her I wasn't feeling too hot. She was worried as I'd kind of been off, and let her know if I needed someone to talk to. I fell in love again. I decided I was going to tell her how I felt, as it wasn't fair to her and it was unhealthy keeping it in since I can barely form sentences around her now. I asked one of the girls if she had an idea that Kelsey might have a crush on me. After explaining why I want to know, she confessed that she did indeed. Yes! But apparently, Kelsey told her that she didn't think I'd ever date her because she used to be fat. She's not in my league, and I probably only saw her as another sister. I was devastated I gave her that impression and almost didn't believe it, but it all makes sense as to why she would think that. I've never made any kind of move on her, and I myself am a pretty fit guy, plus my ex was super skinny. So I'm afraid to make a move now that she's lost so much weight that she's going to think I only like her now because she's not fat anymore and my feelings are surface level. She means so much to me and I don't want to F this up. Most of my friends are saying she's going to understand and not take it personally because she knows me. Some said she's gonna think I just want to bang her now that she's hot. My sisters think I should tread lightly as she could feel like a rebound. How to approach this without coming off as shallow and potentially losing her or her respect? Thank you. Sorry this was crazy long, guys. I'm stressed. TLDR, I'm in love with my best friend that used to be chubby, but don't want her to think I only like her now that she isn't chubby. Let's read some relevant comments here. User 1 says, I honestly think the best way to go about it is to legit just tell her that it's not because she lost weight. I used to be fat myself, and if someone who knew me before would be hitting on me now, I'd immediately be thinking that their attraction is only shallow level, and it would be off-putting to me. And obviously, if I'd asked them, they'd deny it, so you bringing it up on your own sounds perfect. User 2 says, I'm sensitive to it too, but what sounds like the real truth, that you didn't really consider her until you were fully detangled from the person before, is something I'd also be very receptive to. You can tell her that you find the self-improvement attractive, without making it about the weight. Luckily, she sounds like a good enough friend that you can be straightforward. Short version is tell her exactly what you told us, why you find her attractive, without getting into the physical stuff you like. There'll be time for that later. OP replies, thanks so much. You're right, I was so miserable with my ex and it took a huge toll on my mental state that nothing else was really on in my mind except making it through the day. X has BPD. User 3 says, say you always liked her but you were shy. I have a question. You said she was chubby, and I'm guessing you weren't attracted to her. If you want to date her and she gets comfortable around you, she might gain weight. A lot of women gain weight in relationships because they're comfortable around the guy. Guys gain weight for the same reason. So my question is, if you start dating and she happens to get chubby again, are you going to just break up with her or post and ask us if you should break up? If so, it sounds like you're more in love with her looks and not her as a person. Also, you probably shouldn't date her if you're just going to break up if she gets chubby again. She doesn't deserve to be treated like that. OP says, thank you for your input. I noticed I did a poor job showing this in my initial post, but I've always found her attractive. She was focusing on herself and not really wanting to date, so I assumed that meant me as well, and I was constantly trying to leave my ex without her harming herself. Her weight has never mattered to me. I was just happy to support her the way she supported me, plus she has some health concerns that's forced her to be more disciplined with maintaining her weight. So even if she was to gain it back, I'd still love her and would never hurt her like that, but I'd still be encouraging to her to keep it up for health's sake, if that makes sense. User 4 says, dude, her friend told you she's interested. Shoot your shot. User 5 said, you're overthinking this. Just do it. Update. Guys, holy hell, I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did whatsoever. It's on TikTok, and am currently even more mortified, but it's so worth it. I'll be answering some comments to clear up some things. TLDR at the bottom. After coming back to these comments and messages over and over, I realized I was severely overthinking everything, making things way harder than needed, and came to the conclusion that I didn't need to bring up such a sensitive topic in the first place, just to tell her how I feel, especially since she didn't confess that to me directly. I just needed to tell her, and quick rest would follow. I texted her the next morning asking if we could grab a bite. Just us two, sometime that coming weekend. Had something important to tell her, and that I missed her, which was true. I stupidly ended up worrying her with the way I worded this. She thought I was moving. However, she was excited and told me she missed me too. She was free that night if I was down, and the day after next. I very much started to panic as it was sooner than anticipated, but that night really was the best time. I was still too embarrassed to show her the previous post in its entirety, but I was willing to do so if she doubted my intentions. To keep this brief, I'll spare the mushy details, but we met at her favorite tea shop. Caught up for a while, then she actually outright asked me what I needed to tell her. It took me a bit to articulate everything since I was actively trying not to stutter like a dweeb, but I told her most of what I originally posted. I've had feelings for her even before the breakup, and just didn't know how to tell her for so many reasons. I told her the important ones, but that she's always on my mind. I've always loved how kind, caring, thoughtful, dedicated, and just all around amazing on top of being so beautiful. She made me realize sacrificing my happiness to keep someone that hates me alive was unhealthy, that I deserved to be happy, and I was happiest with her. No one brightened my day like she did. She looked preciously stunned for a moment after I was done, and I was tearing up a bit at this point, but proceeded to tell me she's felt the same since we met, and had a tiny feeling I liked her. However, she didn't think I'd be interested in dating her since we were such close friends, Plus, the toll my ex put on me meant I probably needed some time to recover, but she was just so happy I actually had the guts to tell her how I felt that she was never going to tell me, so we both kind of awkwardly laughed for a bit. We talked for a while more, and I was so overjoyed, relieved, and super nervous as the mood immediately shifted to something newly intimate. But I did end up asking to take her out on a real date whenever she was ready, as I did lay a lot on her. Long story short, a lot has happened since then. She's now currently my girlfriend. We're taking things super slow. Our second date is in a few days, and I'm kicking myself for not telling her sooner. She hasn't mentioned her weight at all, and I will be 100% showing her the post if she ever does, so now I'm really glad I didn't start off with that. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you for your feedback, encouragement, support, and couldn't have done it without you guys. Serious rock stars over here. Let's read a few more relevant comments here. User 6 says, "That's a great update on which to quit Reddit for the day. Congratulations and good luck." User 7 says, "Congratulations, man. Be there for her and treat her well and always be there to listen and support her during inevitable downtimes." Yay, a happy ending. This is quite awesome to hear. Sounds like they were both kind of vibing and feeling each other, and, he finally threw down the gauntlet and said, "Look, I like you. Do you like me?" Turns out she does, and now they're together, and that is super awesome. So, good for you guys. Story 4. My boyfriend wants to buy a boat, and I'm $40K in debt. Been together almost 10 years. I own the house we live in. Due to unemployment, he stopped contributing to the bills over 5 years ago. For the past 3 years, he's been back to work. He paid off all his debt, and his only bills are his car insurance and our cell phone bill. I've asked him a dozen times to start contributing, and it always turns into a fight. He tells me if I need money, I should just ask for it, but I don't believe that's a good substitute for giving me a specific amount I can rely on every month for the bills. I do 95% of the grocery/household shopping. I've made bad decisions and buried myself in debt trying to live a lifestyle that I should be able to afford if I wasn't supporting him. He wants to buy a boat. I'm about to take a $9K per year pay cut at work. He knows how much debt I have. Decided I'm breaking up with him, selling the house to pay my bills, and walking away happy with probably $100K in my pocket. Literally life-changing money. Am I overreacting by ending a 10-year committed relationship without talking to him about it one more time and giving him a chance to make it right? Edit. Wow, this post blew up way beyond what I expected. Hate to say this, but if you don't have anything different to say from the other 1,000 plus other comments here, please don't waste your time. There's no way I'm going to be able to read all these. And to the people saying absolutely awful things to me, guess we all know what kind of person you are. And to the person that asked for nudes, I'm flattered, but no. Second edit. I really appreciate the kind words and well-meaning advice I've been getting. I'm gonna try really hard to read all of them, but there's like 4,000 right now. To answer some of the more common questions, I already rent out a room to someone. I didn't mention it because it didn't seem relevant. I've raised his rent starting next month. He's also had a really sweet deal for a few years. I have a very good job. I work for USPS. Problem is, USPS is going broke, and they realize they can pay a part-timer $20 an hour to do what they pay me almost $40. I don't know how bad it'll be yet, but it's looking like a 9 to 11K per year pay cut. I'm trying to get ahead of it before it hits. The benefits are great, and I don't have a degree, so there's no real way for me to get into a higher paying job. I'm considering Instacart/DoorDash once it does hit. Just doesn't seem fair that I have to work 2 jobs while he sat on his ass for 2 years. And listen, I get it. Selling is a bad idea. A house is an investment, but I don't really see any other way of getting out from under this debt. I don't want the hassle of trying to rent the whole thing out to someone and pay for an apartment myself. I don't want to have to maintain it. It's way too big for me, and I don't even think I want to stay in this state. Sell now, pay off debt, put money away, and earn interest on it. Then, in a year or so, once I've got my head straight, hopefully move somewhere warmer. Third edit. One more thing. He already has his boat. A cheap boat, if there is such a thing. He wants a nice new boat, so he doesn't have to keep putting money into the one he's got. Let's jump into the relevant comments here. This is OP, responds on her budget for the house and paying off the debt she has. Wait until her boyfriend is out to sell the house. OP replies, "Yeah, pretty much. I could afford it if I didn't have $1,000 a month in credit card payments, and if I wasn't about to take a nearly $1,000 a month pay cut. I also have no interest in living in a place this big or maintaining my yard by myself, and it would take years for a roommate to reach the same financial benefit as just selling. It would take about 5 years for rent to pay off my debt, and that's at the amount I'm at right now, not counting all the interest charges that would happen over those 5 years. I can't. I ran the numbers. I can't afford my bills and the mortgage. Even taking on a roommate would still take 5+ years to pay it off, and I don't want to live with anyone for a long time." And then OP on making a safe retirement account to live comfortable after moving out and take care of what she owes. OP says, "I have a retirement account and I can afford rent on my salary with no credit card bills. I'm planning to increase my retirement contribution to pretty much the maximum and slowly chip away at the $100K while it also sits in a savings account earning interest." And then we get OP on getting therapy to deal with her issues and taking care of herself first before anyone else. OP replies, "I was in therapy. My therapist is moving to a new practice that doesn't accept my insurance, so I have to find a new one. I've gently encouraged him to seek therapy for a long time, but he won't. I've suggested couples therapy multiple times, but he believes that's a sign the relationship is already over. So basically, I'm just giving him what he must expect at this point. She's out of state, and her new practice only takes clients from a specific EAP that my company doesn't participate in. I really wish staying with her was an option. Working on it. Had some undiagnosed mental health issues, which explain literally every dumb thing I've done. I'm actively working on myself." OP on if she has kids with her boyfriend and it would put more debt on her. OP says, "He already has one, grown up, and I don't want any, thank God." OP then explains the budget she and her boyfriend spends every week. OP says, "I spend about twice as much on his groceries as I do for mine. I eat one meal a day and about $12 a week on snacks. He eats lunch and dinner and probably $20 plus a week in snacks. He drinks $30 of Diet Coke every week. I drink a $4 pack of bottled water with MIO or Crystal Light packets and the occasional energy drink. I have a decent car because I got sick of used ones being unreliable. My car payment isn't extravagant and it's good on gas. I do take 2 to 3 vacations per year, 2 long weekends and a 5-ish day one. I shop around for the best deals and pay cash for everything except the hotel and flight points. I always suggest camping, but he likes to be more comfortable. Anyways, I lost track of what point I was making here. I fully admit I've made bad financial decisions, but those decisions wouldn't have been nearly as bad if he was carrying his own weight. I guess I figured he'd step up eventually, and he just hasn't." Then OP on her boyfriend's work situation for how long. OP says, "No, he was only unemployed for 2-ish, but he hasn't paid a consistent or helpful amount of money for a household in over 5. Update. My original post blew up way bigger than I expected. I was definitely overwhelmed by all of your responses, and I truly appreciate how many people care about a random internet stranger. I've considered posting an update many times since we wanted to wait until it all played out, but I've had people reaching out recently, so I decided this was a good time. I spent a decent amount of time setting things up for myself behind the scenes. I had a safety plan for myself and my cats in case he got angry. I spent a long time putting a plan together for what I would do after selling my house. I broke up with him in early June. It was one of the most emotionally difficult things I've ever done. We talked for hours over multiple days about what went wrong. He didn't get angry, just sad. I was really sad too, and I still am. But we're both on the same page now, and we agree that it's the best thing for both of us. He moved out right away and has been slowly moving his stuff out. Took me about 2 months to get my house ready for sale, but once it was listed, I accepted a very good offer within a week. Closing is 3 weeks from now. I decided to take this opportunity to completely change my life. I'm moving across the country. I already have a place and a job lined up, and I'm really excited for my future. I'm making about as much money as I expected, paying off all my debt, and investing a large amount of what's left. I'm moving to a lower cost of living area, and my expenses will be considerably less than they have been. And the job I have lined up will pay about the same as I make now, so I'll be in really good shape. I've already signed a lease for a sweet apartment. Maybe I'll look into buying again in the future, but for now, I'm just looking forward to a fresh start and the opportunity to make my life exactly what I want it to be. Alright, now let's read a couple relevant comments here. User 1 says, Did he ever say why he wanted to buy a $40,000 boat instead of helping you pay off your debt? OP replies, sort of. He just wasn't thinking, I guess. Somehow, he always thought I was fine, even though he knew how much debt I was in, and even though I begged him so many times to start contributing consistently. In his mind, I must have been fine because I never asked him for specific amounts to cover specific bills. User 2 says, oh, I love this ending. I hope you're moving to a cool city and make lots of friends. OP says, very cool city where I already have a couple good friends, and I can't wait to meet more. Ultimately, the right decision. This guy was kind of like a financial black hole, and not only hurting OP financially, but over time just kind of building more and more resentment. It was only a matter of time before it came to a head, and she absolutely made the right decision. You're not the a-hole, you're correct in leaving him. So good for you. Hope you have fun on the other coast. Story 9. I found a friend looking for gay sex on Grindr. He's publicly straight and engaged to a female mutual friend. What do I do? The title says most of it. I'm openly gay and single. No shame in me being on Grindr, though my public pics only show me from the neck down and I share my face in DMs. I get flirty messages from a similar faceless profile. He's seriously DTF right now. We agree to exchange faces. He sends his first. It's Leo, a friend I've known since elementary school. He's engaged to Lisa, a close friend of mine. They're getting married this October, and I already RSVP'd to their wedding. I did not send my face back, and Leo is sending me frustrated and horny DMs about how our kinks are so aligned and I have a sexy body, etc. I'm panicking. This is happening right now. What do I do? Let's jump right into the relevant comments here. User 1 says, make sure it's him. People use strangers' photos to do their things, and captures the conversations, then confronts them. Make a face-all and record it. If it's him with the proofs, you'll be able to talk with your friend, but without anything, she will not believe you. OP says, it's 100% him. The profile, hobbies, etc. match exactly with the Leo I know, and he sent me a naked picture of himself, not something found on social media. I screen capped everything. User 2 says, confront him. Ask him if Lisa is okay with him being on Grindr and screenshot the conversation, so if he tries to make you out to be a creep, you have proof you weren't. Then OP edited the post on the same day. Edit. Without revealing my identity, I told Leo I know him in real life and asked if his fiancé knows about his gay sex life. He blocked me without reply. I will tell Lisa and show her the screenshots and ask her to keep my involvement quiet, hoping no consequences come my way. Thanks for the help. Now let's read some more relevant comments here. This is when told to tell the fiancé. I'm trying to come to grips with the emotions here, but Lisa does need to know if Leo is really a lying cheater. But holy F, trying to think of how to go about it? I prefer to not expose myself if possible. User 3 says, you could make a shadow account and tell her, or do it proper. She needs a true friend during these trying times. Meet with her and tell her face to face with proof. OP replies, I think it seems best to tell her in person and show evidence. I'll ask her to not tell Leo or anyone else that I was the gay guy who found Leo on Grindr. But he doesn't know that many gay guys, so I'm really worried he'll deduce it's me even if Lisa keeps my involvement secret. I was supposed to have a pleasant week off. WTF happened. I'm more worried about being assaulted or some kind of vengeful retaliation than I am about being hated, honestly. I think I'll tell Lisa in person and beg her to keep my involvement secret. Update. Sorry if this is the wrong way to post an update. Things have been hard here. Lisa met me for coffee. I showed her evidence of Leo on Grindr. She believed me all right. She cried. I tried to comfort her. She recoiled from me and started ramming into me. Apparently, I ruined her life. I led Leo astray. I am personally to blame for her fiancé cheating on her. I was trying to be understanding of her emotions and to comfort her anyway until the homophobic slurs started coming. She was always an LGBTQ ally, so it was a huge shock. I quickly left after that, feeling like crap. Lisa clearly told Leo it was me who outed him. He kept trying to call me. I refused all his calls. Then, his car parked across the street from my apartment for some time, though he never got out of it. I'm in the dark, but it seems like Lisa and Leo are still together, and they closed rank by designing me as the villain here somehow. So yeah, and now let's quickly check out the top comments here. User 4 posts, this happens. People in relationships can turn on outsiders and scapegoat them, especially when they bring bad news about the relationship. I'm so sorry. You did the right thing. User 5 says, yep, usually a relationship destined for doom that drags on and is terribly messy. At least you have receipts in case they try to tell any mutual friends you did something wrong. And user 6 says, wait, you can cheat on your girl with men, blame the one dude you didn't F, and your girl supports you and turns homophobic in the process? Kind of a weird reaction, unexpected from the fiance here. I thought for sure she would have dumped Mr. Leo after this, especially after being shown irrefutable proof that, he's messing around on Grindr. But, it is what it is. OOP did what he thought was right, and ultimately there's next to no shot that their engagement / eventual marriage is going to last. So don't harp on it too much. Just drop these two like a bad habit and move on. Story 10. My husband doesn't know that I know what he's up to. My 33F husband, 34M, and I had our first baby back in June of last year. My husband's aunt gifted our son a lovely, chunky knitted blanket. The blanket is so soft, and I made multiple comments about how I would love to find a full-size blanket just like it, because it's so cozy and I'm kind of jealous of my baby. Well, this past weekend, my husband snuck off to the store. He refused to tell me where he was going and why, but I later found a plastic bag with the logo of a local crafting store. That evening, DH stated that he would like to have an hour of alone time every night after our son goes to sleep. He stressed that he would not like to be disturbed, but if I needed him, then I could call / text him. I agreed to this because we're both adjusting to having very little me time since the birth of our son. Last night, during his alone time, our son started crying. I checked the baby monitor and saw that he had simply lost his pacifier and was going back to sleep. However, the baby monitor also shows part of our son's room, not just his crib. In the corner of his room, I saw my husband sitting on the floor with a bunch of chunky yarn in front of him. I turned the volume up and heard he was watching a YouTube video on how to finger knit. This sweet man is making me a blanket. He absolutely loves surprising me, but is terrible at keeping secrets. I just know that he's going to slip up and accidentally mention something about the blanket at some point. I plan on acting clueless so that I will still be surprised when he gives it to me. I just love him so much, and I'm so delighted that he's learning a new skill so I can have a custom blanket. Let's jump into the relevant comments here. User 1 says, OMG, the title makes it sound like it could have been something else, but it's so cute. Also, why do men seem to always forget about the baby monitor? User 2 says, because he isn't being deceptive. If anything, he allowed her to know that he isn't up to anything by being in the view of the baby monitor. He's being very transparent about this surprise gift, and I love this for OP. It's something I will steal and do for my partner when we have kids. OP replies, so he just came home from work and mentioned his alone time again. To keep up the facade, I asked him what he would be doing during that time, and he said, just working on some stuff. Since he's so terrible at keeping surprises, he always tells me, I have something planned, but I can't tell you what it is. And then we do this back and forth where I ask about it, and he refuses to tell me. So, for the sake of his surprise to me, I will keep occasionally asking him what he's up to during his alone time. User 3 replies, thank you for this lovely post and sweet story that is restoring some of my faith in marriage and humanity today. Please, please, please don't let me come back in several weeks to an update that he used the blanket to pay off a gambling debt, gave it to his best friend's ex for her birthday, or made it into a furry suit for himself. Reddit has been absolutely unhinged the past few months. OP says, if he managed to knit himself a furry suit, I wouldn't even be mad. I'd be wildly impressed that he had such talent. User 4 says, what a sweet, lovely partner. Mine can't keep a secret either, and I love giving the validation of surprise and enthusiasm when they present the final piece to me. Just wonderful. OP says, if you ask my husband, he'd tell you he's very good at surprising me. But little does he know, he's actually very obvious whenever he's planning something. I'm rarely surprised, but I always act like I am. Update. Brief backstory. I posted recently about how I checked the baby monitor while my son was sleeping and saw my husband sitting on the floor of my son's room finger knitting a blanket for me after I made a comment on how I wanted a chunky blanket. My sweet husband broke. He kept on mentioning that he was working on a surprise for me. I would occasionally ask what this mysterious project was, and he would get a cheeky smile and say, I can't tell you. That eventually evolved into him repeatedly telling me that keeping the surprise was really hard, and he wanted to just tell me. I kept saying, no, you've kept it a surprise for this long, you can keep going. But one day after dinner, he decided he couldn't keep it in anymore. He showed it to me. It was only about 1/4 done, but it was so lovely. The yarn was really soft and was my favorite color. I could tell he had taken his time because of the consistency of all the loops. Even unfinished, it was perfect. He told me that he kept moving it around to different hiding spots, but since our house is very small, it was only a matter of time before I accidentally found it. He said he had run out of yarn and asked if I wanted to pick out another color to add to it. I said yes, and we made a little date out of it. We grabbed lunch and then walked around the craft store before I picked out a complementary color to the one he chose. He hasn't had much time to work on it the last few days, but he assured me it will be finished by my birthday. I'll post a picture of the blanket when it's finished. For now, I'm wildly impressed with how long he kept it a secret, and I'm so excited to have my first ever handmade blanket. Let's check out some top comments here. User 5 says, OMG, I was ready for another unhappy story, but this is the sweetest thing I've read on this sub. What a sweet, sweet man. User 6 says, as a crocheter, if he does not finish before your birthday, whether that is next week or in 5 months, tell him that's totally normal. It's like a rite of crochet passage that gifts are not delivered on or before the intended event. We also need photos. Photos. So I, like everybody else that replied, thought that by reading the title we were in for another, affair, something shady going on. But man, how wholesome and cool is this story? And like one commenter said, how does this not just restore your faith in humanity in general, let alone marriage and relationships? So happy for them. That's so inspiring that they're so in love and, doing these cool things, making a date out of picking out yarn. I mean, just simple but also wholesome, really cool stuff like that. Good for you guys. That was really nice to read. Story 11. Daughter's ex-boyfriend soliciting me for sex. My daughter's ex-boyfriend took my cat when they broke up. He contacted me a couple of days later and said he would return the cat if I would have sex with him, wanting to know what my legal options are. I live in Oklahoma. How old is the boyfriend? If you trade him sex for the cat, you're engaging in prostitution. He's 18. I'm in no way considering it. I want to know if I can use his demand against him. You can file a police report for your stolen property. Tried that. Officer said it was a civil matter and wouldn't take the report. This was before the daughter's ex made his demand. Update. I got my cat back. After seeing everyone's responses to my last post, I decided on a course of action to get my cat back. Long story short, I was able to contact my daughter's ex and told him I would do what he asked. But it had to be at my house, and I had to be able to see my cat first, so I would know he had even brought her with him. He agreed and showed up at my house with my cat. As soon as he was in the house and I had possession of my cat, my boyfriend, who is also my daughter's father, and my daughter's new boyfriend, both came out of the bedroom and nicely escorted the ex-boyfriend off of my property without further incident. Certainly random. I mean, there's really not much else you could have done there. Also, who just steals a cat? Super random, but Oklahoma, am I right? Moving on. Story 12. Guilted into contributing a family member's wedding, and I feel upset. So basically, as the title says, I'm being guilted to help pay for a family member's wedding, and I can't help but feel upset. My family is of the mindset that family helps family. And although objectively I have a better paying job, so I seem better off, I also have more financial obligations. Student loans, car, home, miscellaneous expenses for other family members. I recently got a promotion and I thought if I saved frugally, I could pay off my student loans this year and have some nice savings in the next year or so for a new home as my family is growing. Out of the blue, we have a family member getting married, and although I'm happy for them, my mom told me she already made a promise that I will help financially. I've already provided $10,000, and I will be expected to provide more soon. I feel upset, and I feel like trash. I know this makes me seem like a doormat, and I promise I usually am not like this. But what else can I do when I get told they don't have anyone else to go to besides me, and that finally things are looking up for them and things will get better, and that our family finally has some good news to be happy about? I know I could have pushed back and said no, but I would have felt bad about it, and I would not have felt happy that my one decision led to more problems for more people. I tried placating myself that it's okay. They're family and I love them, and they'll pay me back, so it's okay. But I can't stop feeling that because someone else wants to do things beyond their means, I have to be financially liable for their decisions. I was finally on my way to financial freedom, and now I have to start again from zero. And the costs for the wedding that I have to bear are not going to end here, which makes me even more upset. I just wanted to get this off my chest since I can't really tell anyone else about it without being seen as a prick or something. Now, relevant comments. User 1 says, how does your family know you have that kind of money? If they can't afford the wedding, they need to cut things out to meet their budget. OP replies, My parents know about my promotion, and although they don't know exactly how much money I have, they are known to make assumptions. And if I ever tell them that I don't have that kind of money, they start questioning me and make a lot of assumptions and guilt me by saying things like, "I thought we could depend on you," and so on. I 100% agree that they need to cut things to meet their budget, but what concerns I have voiced fall on deaf ears. It's the whole family weddings are just like this debacle. No_narwhal9465 says, "You shouldn't start something you aren't going to continue doing. Guess what? You're now the person to bankroll everyone else's wedding. You need to start placing the boundary now. No more money is coming. That's it. Otherwise, they'll keep on coming with their hands out. You may ruffle feathers because of this, but they aren't entitled to your money." Update. I don't think anyone cares to read this, but posting it more so as a reminder to myself to stick firm to my decision. A few other things happened between my original post and now, and I went low contact with my parents and no contact with my cousin and rest of the family. I tried to explain to them why I can't keep funding the wedding and other major milestones, and they would not understand. This was just the tip of the iceberg for me, and I didn't realize it fully until I started talking. I ended up talking about how they made me feel over the years, how they essentially bullied me over my weight and looks from a young age. A 10-year-old does not need to be told that she needs to be skinny because guys like skinny women, and if I'm not skinny, I won't find a guy to marry me. Mind you, sure, I was a bit chubby, but still pretty normal for a 10-year-old. Cue the nearly 20 years of eating disorders. How they never celebrated my accomplishments like they did for my siblings or other cousins. How they put so many restrictions on me from a young age, but my siblings and cousins could do whatever they wanted, etc. The more I talked about it, the more I realized that they can't take advantage of me, my money and time and energy, when it's convenient for them, and they won't even reciprocate with basic understanding. I was done with the BS about family and culture and whatnot. So yeah, I ended up blocking my extended family, going low contact with my parents, and my parents are in charge of collecting the money from the relatives and paying it back to me. Now let's read a couple more relevant comments here. User 2 says, "Look at your brand new shiny spine. You're doing great, love." User 3 says, "Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Stick to your guns. You've got this. You deserve people in your life who prove they belong there. Ultimately, the right thing was done. You gotta stand your ground and say no mas. Family or not, nobody is entitled to your money except for you." So, yeah, they were absolutely going to continue to push the envelope on this, and that's why she needed to push back. Ultimately, she did. It kind of sucks that she had to basically cut everybody off, but it's worth not going another 10, 15 grand deeper in debt. Story 13. Am I the a-hole for not telling my fiancé that my late partner was a man? I, 29M, lost my fiancé 4 years ago in a car accident. He and I were both 25 at the time and had been together since we were 19. If soulmates are real, he was mine. He was stubborn, he preferred a way earlier bedtime than I did, and was a major homebody, and I loved all of it. He would stay up with me until he was sure I fell asleep, and weekly movie theater outings, planned by him, became a thing like a month into us meeting. I'm a fundamentally different person both because I met him and because of my grief. I was shown what real love and effort and care feels like. I also don't talk about him. I go to therapy once a week. Otherwise, it's silence on that topic for me. He lives on in me in the ways I try to emulate him. I practice the patience he had that I always struggle to find. I go after career-related opportunities that scare me because I know he would encourage me to. Sometimes I let myself stay in bed because I know he'd be gentle with me and let me do that too. But I don't talk about him, and I probably never will. I'll make the occasional, "Oh, X would have loved this," comment when I'm with friends who knew him well. With strangers, nothing. My friends and family respect that as well. I'm engaged again. My fiancé, 31F, obviously knows I was engaged before. I pretty much told her, my last partner passed away and I don't talk about it. I don't use social media in really any capacity anymore, but she happened to stumble upon an old Instagram profile of mine recently and saw him heavily featured. This led to her accusing me of purposefully keeping this from her. I don't really see why his gender matters, and I told her so. She said I've broken her trust. Times like these are when I long for the life I was living before, but grief effed up my brain, so I'm not sure if I'm being insensitive. Edit. She knew I'm bisexual. The only thing she didn't know is that my fiancé was a man. Now let's read irrelevant comments here. User 1 says, "You kept the fact he was a man a secret because you knew it would be an issue. YTA." OP replies, "I live in a very liberal area and I've never heard my fiancé express any bigoted views. I wouldn't be in this relationship if I had. I wrongly assumed it was a complete non-issue." Edit. She knows I'm bisexual and has known for our entire relationship. User 2 says, even worse. So, if your partner would not be okay with you being bisexual, then you'd qualify her as bigoted? You're full of yourself. Get help, and if you care about her, get away and don't hurt her more. OP says, she's okay with me being bisexual. The only thing she wasn't aware of is that my late fiancé was a man. But to answer your question, yes, I do not think dating someone simply on the grounds of their orientation is bigoted, but it does usually save me trouble when dating, because it helps weed people out. The STD argument lets me know they're ignorant, and the now I have to worry about girls and guys shows insecurity or some kind of inherent lack of trust. User 3 posts, oof, some of these comments are rough. Here's my perspective as a widow. You need to talk to your therapist about this, not Reddit. Most people have no idea what it's like to lose so much and just how much that loss shapes you. But also, it's concerning to me that he sounds like such a big part of your internal life, but you've never even mentioned him with your current partner. Before you get married, you need to dig into why you've compartmentalized this to such an intense degree. Why are you hiding him? What are you afraid of? If I'm being generous, I think seeing that your late fiancé was a man shocked your fiancé into realizing that she knows absolutely nothing about this major part of you. OP says, I really appreciate your comment. Thank you. It's very thoughtful. I don't think there's anything I'm necessarily scared of, but I'm very protective of his memory. Sharing him with someone he didn't choose to share his story with kind of freaks me out in a way. I don't know. I'm aware that's irrational. Then there's the risk that the new partner would get tired of hearing about him or otherwise insecure about it, and that makes me really uncomfortable to think about too. So I guess I keep him safe in me and my mind, and it protects me too. And then on if the fiancé was having an issue with the previous partner's gender. OP says, because the gender issue is all she's fixated on, at least during our conversation. Also, it makes me uncomfortable to be with someone who's okay with my bisexuality in theory, but not in practice. If the thought of me having sex or being romantic with a man in the past makes the other person insecure, I'm not really down for that. I come out to any potential romantic partners early on, so I thought I had already done my due diligence in that regard. I probably should have been more open, but I didn't anticipate that I needed to have a second coming out where I admit that me saying I'm bisexual actually means I'm bisexual. Like, not just in the I like kissing dudes in bars kind of way, but in the romantic, morning sex 6 years into a relationship way. Update. I figured I'd go ahead and post an update before I go to my all lurk, no post/comment Reddit life. Yesterday, I had an emergency therapy session because I was spiraling and didn't feel prepared to tackle the upcoming conversation with my fiancé without one. It was hard but necessary as I was finally honest about just how much I was compartmentalizing my grief. It laid the foundation for where I'd like to go moving forward. Now I have to put in the legwork. A few hours between my therapy appointment and my fiancé getting off work was evidence of just how avoidant I've become. It was a conversation we needed, but definitely not one I wanted. When we finally sat down to talk, I asked her to start us off by telling me exactly what was bothering her about the whole situation. She said because I had come out to her in a casual way, the way I come out to anyone, by mentioning it early on when it seems natural to bring up. She didn't realize how serious I was, and this made her look at me differently. She apologized for that and suggested that if I told her more about him now, it might be an easier pill for her to swallow. I tried, but there was this knot in my stomach the entire time I tried to pick a place to start. And maybe this is me being cruel, not giving her the benefit of the doubt, but it just didn't feel right. She hadn't come to me and said, I was shocked because I realized how little I know about this time in your life. Would you be open to talking about it now? Instead, it felt like, tell me what you saw in him so I can attempt to rationalize your orientation. I told her I needed some time, so she went to stay elsewhere for the weekend. A longtime good friend of mine came over this morning. I think the combination of anonymously talking more openly about my partner here as well as being open with my therapist helped remind me of how joyous and cathartic it could be. I don't know the exact catalyst, but I do know I spilled my guts. We talked for hours about things I haven't told anyone in years. I expressed how nervous I was about possibly living alone again, and I was told I didn't ever have to worry about that. That an SOS text message would be all it took for me to have company if I needed it. Same goes for all my friends and family. I'm so lucky to have an incredible support system. 5 minutes into that hours-long conversation, I already knew. The trust, security, and love I felt made room for this newfound openness. The absence of any of those marks a relationship DOA, and is why I felt physically ill trying to share his memory with her. I truly wish her the best. I think going our separate ways will be good for both of us. We weren't getting what we needed from each other. She's supposed to be coming back tomorrow, so we'll have the talk then. I have lots of work to do, but for tonight, I get to be reminded of what safety feels like. Edit. Please see this comment where I elaborate on the conversation she and I had. There seems to be this misunderstanding where I blame her for everything because she didn't perfectly respond to the situation. Two things can be true. I wasn't open, I'm largely accountable for the problems in this relationship, and I never should have entered it if I wasn't ready. She also said ignorant things. I'm not angry about it, and it's certainly not the sole reason we're breaking up. It's just another reason on the pile of reasons why this isn't sustainable. Me still not feeling comfortable enough to share with her, me blaming her for everything, or even the majority. It was just the final nail in the coffin between maybe we can work this out with a lot of effort and this needs to end now. Let's read some relevant comments here. User 1 posts, "You're human and you're grieving. You made mistakes. You're admitting to them. You're working through stuff. Just wanted to encourage you not to get too caught up in everyone here piling on. I get your concerns about possible biophobia too. None of us were in that conversation, and our opinions don't matter much anyway because we're not in your relationship. Go in peace. Best wishes for your continued healing and personal growth." OP replies, "Thank you, sincerely. It can be easy to get so focused on what people are getting wrong that I get stuck doom scrolling. Haha. The conversation I had with her left me sick to my stomach and uncomfortable. I'm definitely not excusing the choices I made. This could have been rectified much earlier had I been open, but it seems like everyone here is just brushing off my experience of the discussion we had, one where I specifically opened the floor to explain why she freaked out so much about his gender. Her answers didn't strike me as something that would lead to either of us being happy long term. Yeah, my nose has been in the phone long enough. Time to turn it off for the night and enjoy the real world. I appreciate you and your understanding." User 4 says, "You said you were extremely nervous before this conversation. Is it possible that you had predetermined that it would go badly and made a self-fulfilling prophecy out of your anxieties? Were your uncomfortable feelings caused by something concretely biphobic that she actually said, or by your own nerves, which caused you to interpret anything she said in the worst possible light? Did you communicate this discomfort to her? Did you ask her how she was feeling? Is it possible your feelings could be the result of a clash between your avoidant nature and being forced to confront the problem? And her not having the perfect answers validated your feelings and desire to run again? Grief sucks, and it can warp our perspective of everyone else in our lives, including ourselves. I hope you have a good therapist and are committed to honesty and working on yourself." OP replies, "Is it possible that you had predetermined that it would go badly and made a self-fulfilling prophecy out of your anxieties? No. I was nervous, but I went in with an open mind. I knew I likely needed to end the relationship or at least pump the brakes, but that doesn't mean I went in guns blazing against her. I wasn't showing up in the way I needed to. We hadn't started planning the wedding yet, and I knew now that would likely be much farther down the line than originally anticipated if things went well during our talk. I had a lot I needed to work through, and I didn't know if she would want to stay for that. Were your uncomfortable feelings caused by something concretely biphobic that she actually said, or by your own nerves, which caused you to interpret everything she said in the worst possible light? She said she didn't realize how serious I was about being bisexual when I had already come out to her. She also said that made her look at me differently and apologize for that. To me, there's only one interpretation of that. I came out to her early on, but she didn't take my sexuality as fact until she saw me with a man, and now she looks at me differently. And despite just devoting a paragraph to that conversation, it was much longer than that in person. I asked her to elaborate, and she doubled down on what she said. She was apologizing to me for seeing me differently and asking me to share memories of my late fiancé to make this an easier pill to swallow. The pill to swallow wasn't my engagement, and it wasn't her lack of knowledge about it. The pill to swallow was, very specifically, the fact that she now saw me differently because I was in a serious long-term relationship with a man. Did you communicate this discomfort to her? Did you ask her how she was feeling? Yes and yes. Like I said, long conversation where I opened the floor to her first and then asked clarifying questions. Is it possible your feelings could be the result of a clash between your avoidant nature and being forced to confront the problem, and her not having the perfect answers validated your feelings and desire to run again? I didn't need perfect answers. I've been imperfect all throughout this relationship. We're here because I've been avoidant and messy and human. I'm at fault here big time for not being open from the start, and I extended grace to her for having to put up with that. I'm sorry I didn't have this conversation sooner, and that I jumped into something I wasn't ready for. What I needed was any shred of evidence that her problems with all this stemmed from my lack of openness, as opposed to him being a man suddenly forcing her to take my sexuality seriously. I didn't get that. And I'm not even really angry at her for that. I don't understand why people are acting like I'm being hostile towards her. We're just not compatible. That's another reason to add to the pile. I'm not going to go into our next conversation blaming her for everything. I'm going to reiterate how it made me feel and encourage her to take bisexuality serious from the jump though. But that's just one part of a much larger talk where I will take accountability and apologize for wasting her time when I couldn't give her all of me.